Good evening. I know I was scheduled to go on at a different time, but I messed up. I'm only human. Dot dot dot. Tonight I am have the great pleasure of having Victor from his channel. I believe it's called the Dutch Oven.
Yes, the Dutch oven.
All right. He's becoming one of my newer friends by the power of YouTube and the interwebs because they're full tubes. And we were just talking about movies, older movies like 13th Warrior, and how just movies like that were awesome for the time period with their own little hiccups, I should say. Did you ever read the book by Michael Crichton?
Yeah, that book is awesome. With the movie kind of like misses that, but the book basically implies that it's Neanderthals that they're dealing with.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I I somewhere down the line, I think Harry Potter kind of broke me of this one, where it comes to the fact that I don't mind. It's like two different. It's like you got the book universe, then you got the movie universe,
hmm
and so if it's slightly different than the book, I'm kind of okay with it because I don't expect them to be able to do everything the book says either.
yeah,
Because of writing, some things just don't work in movie form. Unfortunately, I think if you want to do an epic tale like Lord of the Rings or whichever one you like that nature, maybe they should be done in anime
hmm
because you can do more with anime than you can do with live action people. And cartoons don't just have to be for kids. We've proven that to be true with what was the one from the 80s, Heavy Metal.
yeah, yeah,
And so I think movies like that, or maybe reboots. I know Disney has thinking about doing a reboot of Firefly, and it saddens me because I want the original cast,
yeah. Same.
but you can't do that because they're all time doesn't wait for anybody. People do age, and people just unfortunately actors get to the point where they're like, I can't do that shit anymore. Robert England said he would come back for like another Freddy movie if his body would let him. Guess what? It didn't.
Yeah,
The stunts are too hard on him, and so we get reboots with new actors, and I'm like, well, why can't it be the old actor? Well, sometimes the flesh and mine is wanting, but the flesh is unable.
yeah. Sometimes reboots work out. It depends if they like follow like the spirit of the original and stuff. Like there
Yeah.
was like the Equalizer with Denzel Washington, and that's like a literal like race swap. But those movies are awesome, even though in the original TV show it's like an old British man.
Oh
But the
yeah.
movies are still great because they still like adhere to the spirit. They didn't try to do like all sorts of like culture war stuff like surrounding it.
Right. Max made a point of sometimes we're looking for ghosts, out there
hmm
that are rolling out there. It's just, I mean, I guess it wouldn't be. It's even, we were just talking about 13th Warrior. The character that Antonio Bonero is supposed to play was the Middle Eastern. He's not Middle Eastern. He's
Yeah,
Latino,
uh, he's he's Spanish.
Spaniard.
I think he's literally Spanish. He's not even like from like Mexico or South America. He's literally Spanish, like European
So
Spanish.
we've been doing this for the get go, and everybody's getting
hmm
pissed off about it now. I mean, I'm not saying that people weren't pissed off back then. I'm just saying, this has already been a thing for a while now.
hmm
When it comes to fantasy shows, I really don't care. At the end of the day, especially if it's a fiction show. Now, if they want to do a historical piece about George Washington and have him anything other than a cranky old white dude, then I'm going to have issues because that was a real person. You should
Yeah,
give that real person at least enough respect to keep certain things the way that they were. I
yeah.
mean, if you want to make him a fruit, more power to you. I don't care. I mean, everybody at that time period was kind of fruity. Uh,
uh,
didn't he wrote a book about how gentlemen were supposed to act at dinner parties, and yeah, of course. And if that's the case, if you ever get a chance to read that book, if you act that way now at a dinner party, people will be questioning your
yeah,
you as a man.
yeah. I'm not a fan of like the race swaps and stuff like the new Wings of Power and like where there's like the black elf and the black dwarfs. But I'm only not a fan of it because it's done for a very specific ideology. It has it has a political goal. It's not just done because like, oh, this actor was the best and we really wanted them. It literally has a political goal that I don't agree with.
Once again, that kind of falls into me, is I've never been a huge Tolkien fan to begin with. I'm the guy who
Yeah,
makes the joke that Tolkien books were so damn boring, even the trees walked up and walked away. But I get where people are saying there's certain aspects of it, it should still remain the way it was.
yeah,
There being a black dwarf in it, it's just it's kind of weird catch-22 with me, because one point I don't care.
yeah.
Other parts like, ugh, come on, people.
Yeah. Well, he wrote those books for a very specific reason. It was to create a mythology for Britain. Britain has like a long history of like different invaders, of wars, and all that stuff. So a lot of the original mythology got lost or got very modeled. So he was like, I want to like create a mythology for like the Anglo-Saxons, and that was basically what the Lord of the Rings was.
Yeah,
And then now there's like all these people coming in like, oh yeah, no, we're gonna just make like this elf black and deal with it.
I honestly think that show's going to have more problems than just. I think Black Dwarf or Black Elf is, or he's not even black. He's like, I don't know what he is, but
Yeah.
I don't think he's black. But I think that show is going to have more problems than just that. I think that's just like the small shit.
Well, the funny thing is that I talked about this on the T-shirt historian stream last Saturday. That actor that plays the Black Elf, he actually portrayed the best elf as far as like the personality went in that show. From the episodes that I watched, every other elf was just like a normal human with pointy ears. There was nothing elvish about him. He actually he like was kind of like aloof, a little bit like inhuman, like the way he acted, like that as elves are supposed to be. They're like he might look like 25, but he's like probably like 400 or 500 or even 1,000 years old. You're gonna have a different perspective compared to like a normal person, and he was the only one that actually portrayed that right, which was funny.
I like the halflings.
Mm-hmm.
Even that there were multiple different ethnic actors playing the halflings, they were still, in my mind, how I picture halflings, very close to what the book portrayed them as.
Well, the problem is the halflings aren't supposed to be in that age. It's set in the second age or whatever, and they're not even supposed to be there yet. They just basically shoehorned that in for the Tolkien show or the Amazon show. So that's why people are upset.
They had to already exist at some
point. No, they weren't around yet. They literally came about like maybe like 5,000 years later.
Oh wow! I know. Yeah. It's funny, as I was watching this guy who is a Tolkien historian, which when everybody says I'm a Tolkien historian, I have a hard time taking you serious just because.
Yeah, I kind of know the feeling, yeah.
I have the same problem with, well, I'm a Marvel Comics historian. I'm like, so if somebody pays you to sit around and read comic books, I want that fucking job.
Yeah.
It's if I went over to, let's say, Sweden, right? Not Sweden, Norway. Let's say I go to Norway. Really quick. Hey, Shadow.
Hey, Shadow.
What's up, buddy?
Let me finish.
How's it going?
It's going good. Thank you for joining. Let me finish my small mind.
Sure, no problem.
With this, then we'll get back into it. If I went, where was I going? If I wanted to go over to Norway and say I'm a Norse god, I do research on the old gods. I have a little bit more respect for that than anybody who says I am a Tolkien historian.
Yeah, I know where you're coming from, but at the same time, Tolkien was kind of an extension of that thing. He was the guy that was like, I'm really into the Norse gods, and I'm gonna like take that, and I'm gonna like tell my own like whole mythology based around that. So
yeah,
it's a bit different than like I'm like a Harry Potter historian,
You're right. I mean. Yeah, I the other thing is these are meant to be, anytime you think, and this is also where I might be coming off weird, but anytime you start taking anything that's fiction serious, then you need to look at your own life wondering what's missing. Because you should be out living a life, not sitting at home bitching about fictional stuff. Yes, fictional stuff has a place in our world. I will never say that it doesn't. I don't want to live in a world that Tolkien didn't exist. And I do not want to live in a world where Stan Lee wasn't a thing. But at the same time, there's a world outside. And some of the best things in life happen outside.
Yeah. Well,
you're very, very lucky. Otherwise, they should be kept in the bedroom.
That too.
Well, that's the problem, though. They'll tell you, like, oh, why do you care that the elf is black? Like, go touch grass. Like, who cares? But meanwhile, they care enough to make the elf black. They're so fucking, like, into the culture war and, like, all the social justice.
It's all about division, guys. It's all about division. The more they divide us, the weaker we are, and we can't stand up against them when we're all divided amongst ourselves. And it's all part of their world domination scheme to keep their power, because if we all stand up, their game falls out.
I completely agree with that. It's like I said earlier before we got this going, it's a topic I kind of want to bring up for Table Breakers. I'm kind of about it, but about religion in games. I've said this multiple times before. There's over 30,000. Okay, I'm looking at the number. 30,000
3,500.
3,500 different variations of the Christian church, and very few of us get along with each other because the way that particular church teaches how to do. Talk about creating division amongst Christians.
Well, again, Christianity is one of the things they hate the most, which means, wow, they must be really afraid of it. Therefore, it must be something powerful against them. And of course it is, and therefore they must divide those people so that they can't rise up against those people, against the bad guys.
I'm not going to say that you're wrong. I can definitely see where you're coming from.
Even if they don't, believe it, or if we don't, they believe that there's a power that, a dark power that will help them if they do these things, even if, for whatever reason it doesn't. They believe these things, and therefore they do those things, again, to separate, divide us, and have us at each other's throats. And, there's really only, a couple of hundred people that are pulling the damn strings, and there are millions, if not billions, of us willing to stand up. If we knew where certain people are right now, they wouldn't stand a snowball's chance in hell of making it through the night.
That's probably true, but I like I said in the earlier part of this chat, I kind of want to talk about movies tonight. Fun movies that we're not going to.
I love movies. Let's talk.
Before we get started, my son is waiting for you to put the link in the chat so he can join us.
I put it in there.
So did I.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I don't know why he's not here yet.
Because he's 17 and he doesn't know things.
he's only 14.
Okay,
he's just about to enter, believe it or not, the fencing class or whatever, he's club or whatever. So he's going to be doing that too, in addition to all the other JROTC things he's doing and everything else.
That actually proves how smart he is, because I actually thought he was like a high school senior. I knew he was in high school, but I thought he was like a senior. So I thought like 17, 18. He's like way younger. That's actually a compliment.
Yeah, he's a brilliant little kid, and he's not even that little anymore. And, he keeps it up. And I'm just going to feel older and older as time goes by. But obviously that's...
I felt really old today. I went to the local store that sells like scooters and mopeds and stuff. And the last time I went there, I was like 17. And now I'm 38. I just turned 38 the last weekend. And it's like, oh man, I feel like so old now. like I told the guy, like literally the last time I was here, I was like 17, just buying like an old Vespa from you guys. And now I'm just buying like an electric scooter.
It's kind of funny. You talk about feeling old. This past weekend, I took part in a sport that I really enjoy. I've been doing it for almost 18 years now, and certain people that remember, were kids, were growing up or starting their own families now. My God. And it's like, hey, it's Conall. I'm like, hey, I want to introduce you to my child. Oh, they're so adorable. Okay, such and such. This is Uncle Conall. if you can't find us, look for this guy. And later on that weekend, this past weekend, I got pulled aside. He's like, it's like, I so want you to be in part of my child's life. You're such a great person. I'm like, wait, who are we talking about? It's like, we trust you with our children. I'm like, why? I mean, thank you, but why?
Yeah.
I wouldn't put it like that, but yeah, it's
I don't feel that different from the 17-year-old degenerate that I was. So
yeah, I don't either. But now I got more responsibilities, more things to do, and I honestly think as men, there comes a point that we do, we stop. Not all of us, not all of our brain at least, but music's a perfect example. I bet your favorite kind of music is from decades ago, and you can't get past it. This new shit sucks.
I've tried to get back on the music train because of my daughter. Try to appreciate the music that she listened to, because my grandparents hated the music that my dad listened to. My dad hated something. Well, not my dad, but my mom wasn't too thrilled about some of the music I listened to. And now my daughter's listening to music. I'm like, there's no heart or soul in this music anymore. I mean,
I'm lucky, and my son who's probably listening. He just got out of the shower, so he's getting dressed. But it's always been my kind of music or his mom's kind of music, and he listens to stuff that he likes. But he can appreciate the music I like for whatever reason, and I'm digging that. But you just gotta expose your kids to that music, and literally, let them know why it's good, and point out, listen to this part right here, listen to that. You're never going to hear anything like that coming out of the new stuff. Hey, what's happening, Victor?
Hi.
Yeah, it's so much more fun getting to talk face to face. And I so much so that I don't even have like a little image for when I'm off screen, because I don't even want to do that. But when I have to, I want to make it quick. And as you'll find out when we're trying to say goodnight or goodbye, like we did. Oh my God, Beetle King is staying.
What the fuck is he wearing?
Hey, what are you doing? A Biden impersonation? Get rid of that red light, man.
Yeah, it doesn't work. My lights are broken. Need to fix.
Actually,
it doesn't work anymore. It just turns on.
Do you, young sir, know who Charlie Chaplin is?
Yes, of course I do.
I want you for Halloween to dress up as the great dictator.
Only allowed to be red.
He does look like a character out of Peaky Blinders or something.
He kind of does. I'll give you that.
You know who he looks like? A friend of mine sent us a picture of Napoleon, and he looks like he also has got that going on too. Yeah. But tell him about your hat.
So basically, here's my TED talk on why Amazon workers don't deserve rights. I'm kidding, but basically we bought this hat, and then some guy ripped a piece off, damaged it, so we had to return it, and then we got it back. That's
they took off the insignia badge that comes off, the cool metal thing. So it arrived without that, like it fell off.
Yeah.
So we had to return it. He finally got it back, and it's kind of a unique military cap compared to everything else. It's got like the square and round thing going on at the same time. It's what kind of hat is it?
I just said twice.
Or your dad was talking, unfortunately.
That's true, but typically that's the way I answer questions.
I almost want to change your name from the Beetle King estate to Little Dictator, but that's just me.
I would, but I don't want to get your channel removed. Also, the only reason that is because I can't spell restorationist in Spanish.
Just put Dick, then right next to it put Tater.
I reminded a couple months ago there was this drama going on in the furry community, and I have like a bunch of like furry followers on Twitter, so I saw it. And it's basically a guy got removed from a convention for wearing like a Soviet era like greatcoat, like trench coat. And like the dumb fucking like millennial furries were like, "Oh, that's a Nazi coat. That's a Nazi," and they basically like ratted him out to like the convention, and they got him removed. Meanwhile, it was just like some Cold War shit that he was wearing.
If they would have went after him for having a Russian coat under the pretense that it's a Russian coat, especially that era, okay, I get that. But for miscalling it Russians and Nazi, that's just dumb.
That's like the opposite. That is the exact opposite of what it is.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've actually got I think it's a World War II Swiss Army trench coat. It's freaking warm as hell. It's kind of like a greenish color. I mean, it's thick as hell. It'd probably stop at 22. Yeah. I got it for $10 from one of these surplus stores a long time ago. And every time I wear it or the little guy wears it, someone offers to buy the thing, and I'm like, not a chance in hell. You probably can't find them anymore for less than $1,000. And I'm telling you, I've done so many cool things wearing it, and now the little guy can wear it and it doesn't drag on the floor.
That's a benefit. Hey, Rick, why don't you come in and join us? Link is in the chat. Haas, I'd love to have you on here.
28 millimeter?
Yeah. Tonight, I want to talk about movies. I want to talk about movies that came out. I'm going to put a little stop on it. I'm going to say movies that came out before the 2000s. I want to talk about the 90s back.
Okay.
Have you started watching Island of Dr. Moreau? Have you started watching Island of Dr. Moreau for our Sunday?
I need to find a copy of it. I've been listening to the book, and I just want to say I want to blow my brains out because I must have got the original edition because it's hard to get through.
So you mean the Val Kilmer movie with the Godfather?
No, preferably the earlier one.
Okay. I like the Val Kilmer movie because it's such a fucking hot mess. Like I love it.
It really is.
Yeah.
Plus, that's two of my favorite actors in it, so I was kind of going toward three of my favorite actors, so I was kind of leaning more towards that way.
The one with Michael York I've heard is really good.
I'll see what I can find. I mean, watching a 2-hour movie is not going to be that hard. Getting through a 5-hour book that drags its ass on the ground the entire time is kind of hard. It might be just a narrator. I mean, I bought it. I'll listen to it, and I'll make sure I get it done before Sunday. But man,
I don't even know we'll be able to get through I don't know that the little guy and I will be able to get through the book. The movie, no problem. We were going to watch it tonight if you didn't do this, or at least part of it. Taking a break from the Venture Brothers because that is the greatest TV show ever.
Oh yeah, Venture Brothers rules. Yeah, I love Venture Brothers.
The little guy wants to say something.
I want to say something. I just don't know what I want to say.
It's it's a little grown up for him. It's a little grown up for him, but at the same time, it's pretty immature. But
I never watched the last couple seasons. I need to catch up on the Venture Brothers.
Yeah, same here.
There was like huge breaks. Like sometimes they had like 4-year breaks, and I just never like caught up again.
But yeah,
same here.
That movie, I remember the Val Kilmer movie coming out. I remember having to, I read the book back in high school. I know I read the book back in high school, and I had the same opinion of the book then than I do now. So yes, I have read the book. I'm rereading it just to refresh, a refresher of it. But holy crap. I think, all joking, kind of joking, really much joking. I think the Anne Frank book, did not drag its ass as hard as this book is dragging its ass.
That's a weird comparison.
I read it the same year as I read this book. It's like son of a bitch. That and the Island of Dolphins or something like that.
Island of the Blue Dolphin, yeah.
Yeah.
Can I make a confession? I've never read the Anne Frank book, even though I'm Dutch. I mean, I guess I'm evil.
It was required. It was required reading.
I know the story, and I watched like a documentary on it. Like as a kid, like they made us watch it in school, but I never actually read the book.
I almost want to say you're better off, but that's bad.
No, ancient history.
I love history. I do. I'm a big fan of history. I think those who do not read and learn from history are failed to repeat it. I do believe that is an honest thing. And if you watch even now, if you watch world history, all it does is rinse, lather, and repeat. Different faces over the years, but the same fucking story.
Well, I think it might also be because to Americans that situation was something unique. To me, I'm actually Dutch. My family went through like the same sort of shit. My grandma was sent to jail by the Germans. My grandfather was like in the resistance. He spent time in the camps, like, you know, all sorts of stuff. So like the Anne Frank story, like, while sad and like, you know, tragic and interesting and like unique, unique to you guys, but it wasn't as unique to us because, like, you know, all of our families went through like that kind of stuff.
That's probably the reason we started reading here, but not.
Well, yeah. Unfortunately, my family was probably on the other side. Still haven't gotten a straight story on that one, and I don't really want to. At least on my dad's side, considering
some of my family might be too. Yeah.
You know, as far as I know, my family came to this country during that time or right after. So I'll never know. DNA test maybe might tell me a little bit more, but I'm 55 years old, and you know I've only got X number of years left on this shitty rock, so I kind of doubt that I'm going to relive most of anything that happened in history, and I haven't had to really, you know, it's not my bag. Not a big history fan. I just, you know, I've been lucky in a lot of ways, but with the little guy, he probably needs to read up on every aspect of history he can get a hold of. Personally, you know, when my time comes, I'm going out in a pile of brass and you know, let the chips fall where they may. But you know, for younger guys like you, yeah, it's definitely required reading.
What was I going to say? Yeah, my grandpa fought in World War II. He fought against
mine did too, probably, but
Germans. Yeah,
we don't talk about that.
But my grandma fled Romania because the Nazis were killing all Roms and anybody that they seemed unredeemable. So, where Victor is saying his grandparents, I'm like, I get that, I understand that story. And earlier about a year ago, I was working for a Jewish family as a private chef, and the grandma comes busting in the kitchen, rolls up her sleeve, and she's got her magic lottery number tattooed right here. And I'm like, son of a bitch. Yeah. So, no, I get it. But going back to movies.
Yeah, movies. Schindler's List.
Schindler's List. No, that's not. Actually, that's a really good movie.
Yeah, but yeah.
That's not a happy movie. Let's try and keep it upbeat. We already talked about death for 2.5 hours. Let's try and hear some folks.
All right. First question I have.
Flintstones. What do you guys think?
I have for you guys.
Flintstones. No. Okay. I just want to throw something totally crappy and random out there.
I assume you mean the 90s live action Flintstones? I despise that fucking movie. That movie is my bane of my existence. I hate it.
Oh my god. No, the bane of my existence was Dirty Dancing, especially back in
yeah, that's also bad. Yeah.
Actually, mine would be Monty Python's Brazil. I'm not going to tell you why because the little guy's here, but I saw that and I almost destroyed somebody else's TV when it was over.
Yeah.
How movies influenced your role-playing games? Now, that's a very good question.
Oh, yeah.
That is a damn good question.
That's a hard question because there's so many different movies.
It's easy. It's easy. I got it. I got that one. Mm-hmm. Excuse me. Yeah, I need another cigarette. Growing up, there were so few good movies, in my opinion. And I still feel that way today. I'm not a big movie guy, but why is a completely different reason we're not going to talk about. But I wanted to make my stories better than the movies because almost every movie I ever saw that had to do with like D&D, fantasy, or science fiction, I'm like, I can come up with better than that. Just waking up and crapping in the toilet out something better than anything I've ever seen. The closest to a great fantasy movie, you know, my list is like 4 or 5 movies strong, and after that, it's like, this is crap. This is horrible. They could have done so much better here, here, and here. Not talking about the actors or actresses, just the basic premise of what they're going to go with, what they're going to allow, how far they're going to go in scope. That's why when Star Wars came out, it just blew all that out of the water. It was just so beyond the scope and the the limits, and just the grandeur of the entire idea was so much more. Prior to that, it was microscopic in comparison to the size of the Empire, the speed of the vehicles, the technological levels. Everything was just crap up until then. And then they went and ruined it as well after they made the first two good movies. Empire was the last of the good ones. The beginning of Return of the Jedi, pretty good. As soon as they get to Ewok heaven, I'm tuned out.
Just skip that part.
It's interesting that you bring that up. I was actually watching an interview, a most recent interview with who was it? With George Lucas. And George Lucas's response was, "Yeah, I know the new movies are not great, but you have to realize they weren't meant for you." And the interviewer's like, "Then who are they meant for?" He said, 12-year-old children. I've grown.
That is me. And no, they're still bad.
Well, I think that's also just him saying that retroactively, kind of.
Absolutely. Yeah. Although that's not entirely true, because when he was working on the prequels, I could have swore he was trying to get the Backstreet Boys to join, to get the Backstreet Boys in, because I think his daughter or somebody was, just head over heels in love with those guys. And he was, as far back as that, trying to cater to, his own children or child or whatever. I don't know. I never paid any attention to that. He's after the Return of the Jedi, all of the movies were very much geared toward younger audiences.
I liked Revenge of the Sith only the last 20 minutes of it. The lightsaber fight between Anakin and not Han Solo, Jesus. Between him and Obi-Wan Kenobi was absolutely gorgeous. I think that was a really good. I just like this the way that they did that.
Well, growing up as a huge Star Wars nerd when I was a kid, I actually had images by Ralph McQuarrie. I had these huge prints of concept art for what was going to take place. And back in 1978, 79, 80-ish, there were images of that very sword fight. And I had been waiting my whole life to see that fight with the lava, etc. And it didn't disappoint. But at the same time, by that time, believe it or not, I was hoping that Anakin was going to win.
Mm-hmm.
Well,
if you can imagine that. Just because I didn't like the younger Obi-Wan, and I felt sorry for and understood Anakin more than maybe I should have, because he's destined to be the bad guy. And
well, they kept messing with him. They just kept being assholes to him. Like, oh, well, you can't be a Jedi Master even though you did all this stuff. Especially if you take into account, the Clone Wars, the cartoon and stuff. Anakin at that point was, basically, winning the war for them. And then, Mace Windu is like, yeah, no, we're not going to make you a Jedi Master. Fuck you. And, well, I don't really blame him for being salty.
Yeah, and then there's stuff with Padme. Everybody trying to, prevent that shit from happening. I mean, the girl was a grown woman. She can make her own damn decisions, even if it was a dumb one.
The order of Jedi. God, I feel like a nerd for even knowing this, more so than normal. The Jedi were not allowed to be married.
Yep, that's why I'm. As soon as I learned that fact back when Knights of the Old Republic came out. Hold on. In the Knights of the video game for the Xbox, Knights of the Old Republic, I got the strategy guide, and I was reading in it the Order of the Jedi's code of conduct, and I'm like, yeah, but at least they can get married and have babies. The fact that Jedi, where did Jedi come from?
The whole babies. Two of them.
Yeah, so you get two Jedi together and they have babies, you're going to have even better Jedi. Oh, no, we can't have that. We got to wait for random chance to randomly make a Jedi out there in the cosmos.
Yeah, and
Fuck that shit.
what
No wonder
happened
the
the
Sith
last
kick
time?
their ass.
What happened last time that what happened last time that two force sensitive guys got together? Or that a force sensitive guy and anyone got together?
Space monkeypox?
No. Anakin,
Well, you said two
like
guys.
Darth Vader happened, children were murdered. Then freaking Leia and Han Solo. Yeah, you get freaking Kylo Ren.
Oh, Ben? Ben was just a moody bitch like his grandfather.
Yeah. That's just Kylo Ren's character.
I mean, but once again, I don't blame the actor who played.
What made me call you out about Kylo Ren there, little sport?
Why?
You don't remember?
No, I don't.
You're serious.
I genuinely.
You don't remember how much you don't remember how much you enjoyed that character growing up.
No, I liked the sword.
Oh, okay. It was just the sword. Okay.
Yeah, that sword still makes no fucking sense to me.
Yeah, but it was badass.
Yeah, it was cool.
Well, how long did those movies come out? He was like, what, 8, 9?
Yeah. I'm just fucking with him.
Yeah.
I was a big Ernest, like Ernest Goes Camping, Ernest Goes to Jail, Ernest Scared Stupid movie when I was his age. No, younger than him.
That explains a lot.
Hey, I got no excuse. I was twice, I was like your age or a little bit younger when I discovered those movies. I'm like, this guy's a comedic genius.
Now
when he was doing the commercials.
Oh yeah,
where he got his start from the commercials. I'm like, this guy's comedy gold. You guys, people just saw one thing and didn't realize if you ever watch those movies, all the different parts he played, in those movies. He was a phenomenal actor and just found a stupid role to make his fortune on. And here's Ernest.
The TV show that he had going on for a little bit. Oh yeah, don't see the bring up Ernest just because that was those were the movies I enjoyed as a kid. I loved Ernest Goes to Jail, Ernest Goes Camping. The place that they filmed Ernest Goes Camping is where I spent this past weekend at camping myself, and the cabins are still there, and it's just a really cool. I mean, nostalgic moment. But Lord of the Rings. That goes back to what I said earlier to Victor. I don't 100% sure if we were live or not at that juncture. But these movies that they're rebooting now, I think would be better done in anime. And here's so. Mm-hmm. You could put more of the book in an anime than you can with live action. You could have older actors who no longer can do the hard stunts.
Okay, hold on. Do you mean animation or actually anime?
Animation, cartoon.
Okay, because you throw anime out there and you're going to get some weird responses and weird results.
Hey, I just went to go see the new Dragon Ball movie that's in theater right now. I enjoyed the fuck out of it.
Yeah, I want to see Dragon Ball superhero.
Oh yeah,
I'm a big Dragon Ball fan, so we're about the same age. We probably both grew up on that stuff, like in our teens. So yeah, I get you.
I used to watch it on Adult Swim, from time to time, and I've probably seen a couple hundred episodes, but they all kind of maybe it was the series I was watching, but they kind of melded into one another, and there was very little story per episode. You really had to watch them all, and if you missed an episode, it's like the same guys are fighting what they were still fighting last episode, kind of thing.
The Frieza saga took far too fucking long, in my opinion.
The problem here in the Netherlands is that they only had the rights up until the first chapter of the Cell saga.
Oh no!
So it would start with the Reddit saga. It would go to like the Saiyan saga while Vegeta shows up. It would go to the Frieza saga. Then it would go to the first part of the Cell saga. And then he's like announcing the Cell games. And you're like, oh yeah, I fucking can't wait for this tomorrow. And then you watch the next day and it's like the Reddit saga all over again. And it happened to me twice.
No.
I was so mad. So because you're like losing like pretty much a year before you even get to that.
Yeah,
and that happened to me twice, and I was so mad.
But it's like Dragon Ball, the original Dragon Ball cartoon, and the movies that came with. I love them to death. But going back to, I think you could do like Disney has the rights. God save us all. Disney has the rights to Firefly. I'm like, no. If this is not going to end well unless of one or two ways, and I've said this multiple times. A, they bring back all the original actors that are still alive and have them play voice actors to a animated series, which is not the same, but it's about as close as we're going to get. Or you get there's another ship with a different crew out there, which once again is not going to be the same, but at least they're not trying to reboot the characters. They're not going back.
There's nothing they can do. There's nothing they can do but ruin it. There is absolutely no way.
A couple of the characters, but the guy who played only person that's actually still alive who died in the movie is the guy who played Wash. The guy who played Booker, yeah,
Book.
He passed away some time ago, but thank God his character is dead.
Yeah, Malcolm Reynolds is still alive. Like all the main actors are still alive, but yeah, they already ruined that in the movie in Serenity because they killed Wash, they killed Book, like you said, like
right. So, but all those actors they're not spring chickens anymore. I mean, yeah, they could.
Nope. And Nathan Fillion is supposedly hard to work with now that he got all famous from Castle and Firefly, and
yeah, I heard he's
Marina
an ass.
Bakara is flighty as hell and can't commit to.
Well, and the guy that plays Jane, what's his face?
The only Baldwin that's not related to the other Baldwins.
Yeah, the Baldwin guy. He's fucking openly right wing, so he's not gonna get on. He's not gonna work with Joss Whedon, who's like an open like leftist progressive.
Joss Whedon kind of. There's been stories coming out about him over the last couple of years.
Yeah, he's not going to have anything to do with it.
Yeah,
they won't bring him on, and Disney won't hire Baldwin, and the other actors and actresses are that in some cases that's what they're most famous for, and probably would rather not do that again. Especially like the girl who played River. How the hell, 20 years later, how is she going to jump into that role?
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
You'd have to make 20 years of like content to like explain it. And it's like, yeah.
Yeah. They're better off making, like you said, a new, the same ship, new crew, and all the other characters are dead. And maybe there's, some reason to.
What they did in Next Generation, first, especially the first couple episodes, was they had the original cast show up with the Next Generation. They had Bones show up.
Yeah, and Bones was like 120.
Yeah, but that's the only way you could do a somewhat softer.
And even then, they only did Bones in the first year. Scotty didn't come on board until a couple of years later. Spock, same thing. They did the two-parter. They never had Kirk on. They never had Chekhov. They never had Sulu because those people they didn't want, Paramount or whoever didn't want anything to do with those people.
They did Kirk in the movie, but yeah.
Yeah, they were just too big to do the job for as little as they could afford in the way of a budget. Even after they had Spock, Kirk was like, "Yeah, I'll do the movie because I know I'll make bank. Otherwise, my time, I make more money shitting than I do, spending a week in one episode."
Yeah.
Well, Kurt, the guy who played Kurt didn't really want anything to do with the show after he was done with it. He thought the cons were stupid. He didn't want anything, he just kind of shit on his work for years until, oh, wait, I'm running out of money. I can make money off of this now.
Yeah.
Well, and then he practically took over the movies, him and Nimoy, etc., because they could. And they took it the way they wanted. That's fine. And now, like I said, with Firefly, these actors are just, there's no place for them to what they've been spending all these decades still doing their petty crimes and adventures, and now it's 20 years later and something big. No, they already had their big shebang. They saved the freaking universe. The end. Let it go. It's my favorite TV show with real people of all time, but I don't want to see it. Just like with Babylon 5. Thank God that thing got squashed again, because the original writer-director, J. Michael Straczynski, was going to bring back Babylon 5 and do a reboot. So let me get this straight. You made this epic 5-year-long story, and now you're going to rewrite the whole thing? Why? So you can shove more SJW bullshit down our throats and ruin what we already loved? It was perfect. Yeah, there was some rough patches. The first year sucked. The last year also kind of sucked. The 3 years in the middle were the Lord of the Rings in space, and thus the 5th year was, the scouring of the Shire, in space, the cleanup after the big to-do in Babylon 5. Okay, fine. I'll even let the 5th year, stay as part of the great part of Babylon 5. There's no need to do anything. All the original actors, Andreas Katsula, I forget the guy who played Londo, I think he's dead. Amira Furlan's dead. Oh, yeah. Okay, so you're going to get all new actors and tell it to a whole new audience, but this time, what are you going to change? There's nothing that needs to be improved except the first year.
If you did do a reboot on a show like that, and the show came out in the 90s, late 90s, early 2000s, if I'm correct, I would give it another about 30 to 40 years before even thinking about rebooting that show, because enough time has passed. I don't have a problem with reboots per se. For example, the Jeff Goldblum Fly versus the Vincent Price's Fly.
Right, but it's different because the same guy who created it wanted to rewrite his own story. Why? Because of money. It's really not even about money. He's written for Spider-Man and done all kinds of massive, amazing things. Babylon 5 was one of them. To redo it is just either he became such a lefty over the years that he wants to throw all that stuff in it, or how can you possibly improve that? There's nothing so bad that it needs to be redone, other than maybe the technological special effects.
Hear me out on this one. I cook for a living. We all know this, right? I can make a dish, and I think it's all right. But people out there think it's amazing. Stick with this recipe. Stick with this. Stick with this. But I don't like it. I don't think it was done right. Mm-hmm. And it works for books. That argument works for books, it works for songs, it works for movies, and so forth and so on. Sometimes the creator of said thing is just not happy with the way it sits. Sometimes they want to go back. It's like, I want a second go at this. I know I can do better.
Yeah, but see, here's the thing. At his age, he would be lucky if he makes the next 5 years, and putting himself through that kind of stress might be more than he can handle. And then what do you get? You get something that falls apart because he's gone. Leave well enough alone. If he's the only person that he knows that's complaining about it, just take the applause and move on and do something better. If you've got that much energy left in you, make something new that's better. Because people are still trying to, get a hold of the Babylon 5 series in their collection, and it's hard. It's not easy to get.
I'm not saying you're wrong.
If anything, re-release it, for an anniversary, and then listen to the audience. And if they say, "Oh yeah, it'd be great for a reboot," if you get 51% of the viewing audience go, "Yeah, we want a reboot," then maybe. But nobody's asking for a reboot. They're just asking to be able to see it somewhere. You can't find it.
Oh, and I'm not saying you're wrong. I completely agree with you. I'm just putting a different argument on it. That's all I'm doing. I'm been devil's. It's like the whole Conan argument. Me and you've been having.
You're both wrong. I'm right. It's fine.
I think certain movies out
Conan
there.
movie sucked.
It's not like the 1982 movie, Conan movie rules. It sucks if you compare it to the stories. It's not at all like the stories. But if you take it by itself, it's probably like one of the best fantasy movies we've gotten in like since the 80s, pretty much. So
now, I don't have a choice because I knew about the the books and the magazines, etc. before the movie. I was there,
Well, yeah, you're like 2 decades older than me, so yeah. Well, back in the half.
And the things that if you watch the movie, okay, and you never read the books, then you go read the books, you're going, this could have never taken place. There's nowhere where to put it in the books. So it's not even an amalgamation of a whole bunch of things like John Carter was, where they're trying to squish 10 books into one movie, which is what they did with John Carter. Same thing, 10 books, maybe 12 for Conan, but trying to squish it all. No, they just said, we don't like this, and just tossing stuff and replacing it with new stuff. It could have been better. It could have been a lot better, and it wouldn't have taken much.
But at the same time, what movie
would have taken much? It wouldn't have taken as much as it would have taken to fix the Siege of the Citadel movie and make that thing accurate.
Hey, now don't. He always brings this up. But you guys, Victor, have you done Mutant Chronicles, right?
A little bit, yeah.
The games and the stuff like that. Siege of the Citadel, Doom Trooper, those things like that. Yeah. You had to. I mean, you grew up in the area. That's like one of my favorite IPs of all time. And he's right. The movie Mutant Chronicles.
The movie with Ron Perlman, was shit.
Yeah, it was shit. But you know what?
Yeah.
I was when Mutant Chronicles very first came out, I was a fan and waiting for the movie. So when it finally came out, I'm like, well, this isn't great. And in fact, some parts are crap. But like my son says, if you take it on its own without all that, it's not that bad. It's just not as true and accurate to the books or the game or the licenses.
To me, 1982 Conan is more than just, it's not that bad though. Like even taken on its own, it's like probably like the best fantasy movie we got out of that whole era. Like I love that movie. I love the characters. I love the plot. Like fucking Tulsa Doom is like an amazing villain. Like what's his face? Darth Vader voice. He did like an amazing job with that. So like
David Earl Jones.
Yeah, David Earl Jones. So even if it's not like the perfect Conan movie, just taken by itself, I think it's still like an amazing movie. It's not just like, oh, it's a mediocre movie. No, I love that movie. It's like one of my favorite movies ever. Even though I also love the Conan stories, and I fully realize it's not like at all like the Conan stories.
I would say it is a good fantasy movie for the 80s. It's not my favorite fantasy movie out of the 80s. My favorite fantasy movie out of the 80s was Willow.
I'm going to go with Beastmaster. I know people think it's cheesy, but I just everything about it was just.
I mean,
I'm going to go with Conan. I'll go with Conan.
I mean, to each, everybody has their own thing, and I completely get that.
Conan the Destroyer was ass though. Like I still like it. I still like it as like a fantasy movie, but like Conan the Destroyer.
What about Dragon Slayer or Call, or I mean Crawl,
or Call came out much later.
No. I just misplaced the letter.
Even though bothers me immensely.
Yeah, my boss used to date. What's her name? God, I can't remember her name now. We just talking about it.
The Bridget.
What the hell was? Yeah, Bridget Nielsen.
Yeah.
She seems fucking nuts.
Yeah,
she was. I mean, she was. That's why they stopped dating. But I've only seen that one once, and I can't remember almost any part of it. Even though I watched it,
it's fun.
I really want to see Dragon Slayer, and then I want to see Krull again, and a couple others, but there really weren't that many. That's the big issue. Like I was saying earlier, that's what got me into gaming partially, because I was like, after I started playing D&D and watching the movies, I'm like, my stories are better than this. They're more fun. There's more treasure at the very least. It's like the movies absolutely refuse to put anything magical in the way of the kinds of treasure we're used to. Think about it. Even a +1 sword would have been like, we can't do the special effects, so it's out. Or how about like this character got this item, this character got this item, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Oh, and then the next dungeon, the same thing. After like 3 magic items, they think the audience can't handle it. And it's like, do you realize who's watching these movies? I want to watch a fantasy movie where each character's got like a half a dozen magic items and they could pull out of their ass at any moment to solve the problem. They'll never do it. They'll never freaking do it. Think about the video games, the same thing.
Okay, if you want that, watch Harry Potter.
Harry Potter? You're a wizard, Harry.
If you want your characters to pull out 12 different magical items to save their asses, watch Harry Potter.
I can't do that. You couldn't pay me to watch a Harry Potter movie. There's not enough money in the universe for that.
I actually enjoy the Harry Potter movies, the later ones. Like I like the last like four. Yeah,
the last from like.
But again, Conall and me are about the same age. She's slightly younger than me. Like you're like what, like 6 months younger than me, or so, something like that. So
maybe I mean,
there comes a point when you become too old to be able to invest in the movies about children with
Harry Potter literally. For Conall and me, the first Harry Potter movie came out when we were like in our teens, like probably like early teens.
The movie came out, the first movie the book came out in '98.
Yeah.
The movie didn't come out much later than that. So yeah, we were still kids when that.
I was basically your guys' age when you were getting into it, and I can't do it. It's not allowed in my circle. You're not allowed to do that. You're not even allowed to listen to music by people that are, half your age without seeming creepy and borderline pedo.
Speaking creepy, I made a comment. I think it might have been on this one. Somebody's joining us. I thought the young lady who that's a shot.
This is just
more like
way to make a lasting impression, my friend.
Whatever.
Don't do it again. Don't do it again.
Is that better? Then there's at least just the V-neck. Is that better?
No. My son's in the audience, and that's just not okay.
It has my face. Like that was
just gets excited about
awkward camera angle.
But what was I going to say? What the fuck was I going
to say? What were you going to say?
Okay. No, yeah. I said the young lady who played Ginny Weasley, I thought was kind of hot, and you guys were giving me shit on that. And it's like, well, it's half my age times whatever. I went to go see how old she is. She's like 32 years old. I'm 39. Yeah. That's still in play.
Okay, actually older than me. Okay, you're 39. Okay, you're actually slightly older than me.
Yeah, I turned 39 this past weekend.
Yeah, I turned 38 this week. So
I mean, fuck you guys. She's still in play.
But have you seen the most recent picture of her? She went full on Irish lass.
I said happy birthday, guys.
Oh, thank you.
I already wished you a happy birthday, though. But Vic, happy birthday.
Yeah.
Thanks.
But did you see the recent picture of her? She went full on Irish, where after they're 25, they look like old ladies. She fucking is like wrinkled as shit now. She looks like a fucking dehydrated potato with wet hair on it. Like
he's cactus mitt left out in the sun.
Yeah.
I don't. I mean, there's very few actresses I actually look outside of the movies they do. I mean, I had a poster of who was it? Oh, the girl from Karate Kid.
Hilary Swank.
No, God no.
Oh, the girlfriend of Mike Macchio, Wolf Macchio.
Yeah, Danny Elizabeth Shue.
Yeah, Shue. Yeah.
Oh man, I had to think she was my first Hollywood crush. It's like yeah, but no. So, what was your favorite movie there, Derek?
What's the genre?
Doesn't matter. Just has to go from 90s down. Nothing beyond 2000.
I could tell you what my favorite movie ever was since I was a little kid. I was 6 years old, and I got to watch the live-action Ninja Turtle movies.
Okay, that's respectable.
The way that it was adapted, like we all grew up in the area where there wasn't a lot of CGI because that shit was really expensive. So if they caught it, it was in a heavy production value, something like a Showtime show or or something like that. Some sci-fi channel shit when we got older, like to 12 or whatever, in like the mid to late.
Oh.
The cheapest, the easiest, and who did they get to, make the suits?
Yeah.
But the guy who gave us fucking Muppets.
Yeah, Jim Henson. Yep.
So
I need to fucking turn on my camera because I'm laughing too much.
The physical artistry that went into making that live action, and it still felt like the Ninja Turtles too, but with a darker edge because 80s 90s gap right there.
Oh, they couldn't make
Ninja Turtles. It was a Ninja Turtles grunge movie, and it was kind of fucking cool that way.
It's the best Ninja Turtles movie in my opinion. How old are you, D-Rock?
The first one? The first Turtles movie?
The very first TM.
Yeah, you know what? I went with my ex, back when it first came out, long ass time ago. She wasn't into it, and we're watching it. I look over, and you know the scene I'm talking about, and she's actually crying.
Yeah.
So yeah, it was a phenomenal movie for what they were trying to accomplish, and it's going to get a lot of flack.
Well, it had like a little bit of grit. It felt dark and gritty, like even as a kid.
It's a grunge movie. It's all it is. It's a grunge era movie. It's like a grunge movie.
You want to talk about dark and gritty? They didn't even give the Ninja Turtles movie was not even half.
It was violent. It was a damn action movie too. Those guys in those suits did a lot of cool stuff.
What I'm trying to say is, if you actually went back and read the old comic books, what it was based off of, holy shit!
Yeah, they were dirty. It wasn't like some kiddie shit.
Nope.
Well, they lived in a damn sewer, and how are you going to show that on film if you're using practical everything? We got to go find a sewer.
Magic, well, in my opinion, will always be.
There's a lot of sets, but they'd had a lot of on-site shit in New York.
Yeah, I'm guessing you're about like mine and Conall's age, D-Rock.
I'm 37.
Yeah. Okay. So yeah, it was either the first Ninja Turtle movie or Dick Tracy. That was like the first movie I ever saw in theaters. I can't remember which one came out first, but it was like the first movie I saw in theaters, and I saw pretty much both of them, like one after the other. So
yeah.
I think it was Ninja Turtles, then Dick Tracy. Jeez, I forgot about that.
Well, I mean, we have the interwebs. We can look up stuffs.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you're 37. I'm 38, and Conall's 39. So yeah.
And I'll be turning 38 in February. So.
Mm-hmm.
And Shadow is just old, and the young dictator down there is just young.
Yeah.
Yeah, my son. What has he got on? Oh, MMS now. My son, that's MMS. He's 14.
Yeah.
Oh.
Well, he's gonna roll over us in like a decade or so.
You should hear what comes out of his mouth.
Oh damn.
What?
Yeah, don't tell him that I have a potty mouth.
See, I don't do all that kind of stuff. I have a friend who's an army guy, and he was an infantry guy, and his son swears, and he's 6. In complete context sentences.
Oh well, my son here is getting ready to. He's doing JROTC, and he just got. He's going to do fencing, which is just. I mean, think about it. If you have a son, isn't that like one of the first things you want him to do? He can get into fencing. Oh my god!
Well,
we didn't have that option growing up as a kid.
Right. See me, I'm just going to be like, this is like, we're not going to throw punches, but I'm going to show you how to throw somebody to the ground and go, stop it. He's going to be like 6 years old. Some kid's going to slap him, and then he's just going to like hug up on his chest and hip toss him.
Yeah.
Boom! No weapons. I'm not allowed to hit you with stuff because then I get in trouble.
So Conall, your original question was like, what kind of movies inspired you for like your games, right?
Yeah.
I'm kind of weird. Like, so I loved 1982 Conan and all that stuff, but I think the biggest inspiration for like the types of games I like is stuff like RoboCop, Total Recall, the movie Heat with Al Pacino and Robert De Niro, like stuff like that. Like those are like way bigger influences for my tabletop games than like even like Conan is. Even though I love that movie, or like the 13th Warrior, like stuff like that.
Yeah.
So.
That's fair. I can definitely get where you're going with that one.
Yeah.
My favorite movie to this day is still, and I know we're going to get a bunch of big blue dick jokes, but The Watchmen. That movie, when you take that out of the movie, when you take those scenes out of the movie, that movie is one of the most dark and gritty and brutal movies ever made. And it's a freaking superhero movie. It's a Cold War era movie.
If taking out those scenes would have made it better, why didn't they just take out those scenes?
Because
I have no idea. Probably to get the girls to watch the movie.
And some of the boys.
Who doesn't like some big blue dick? Come on, be honest, guys.
Where do you think Smurfs came from?
You watch. No, see, that's against the lore. You can't say that. They don't procreate that way.
Yeah, all men and one fake woman. Great guys. This is really
apparently in
species.
Apparently in a TV show, he just willingly became a black guy, so I get black dick. So.
I won't watch the TV show because I know it's just going to be a bunch of woke ass bullshit.
Well, in the TV show, the main black chick she's married to like this nerdy black guy, and you find out throughout the show that it's actually fucking Dr. Manhattan who just willingly gave up his identity and just became like a black guy and married this chick. And
that sounds like horseshit.
Yeah, it was.
Well, this was like 30 years after. Well, actually, it was like 30 years after the end of the
movie.
The movie where he basically, in all his infinite, power and everything, he just got fucking lonely.
That I find also to be horseshit.
He didn't have those kinds of emotions.
The universe is full of aliens.
He was like, I'm gonna fucking chill on fucking Mars, so just get away from these fucking assholes. And I was like, I'm gonna marry a black chick and fucking just be like a fucking friendly, fucking nerdy, fucking black guy who like Urkel guy. Like, no.
Why would you?
I didn't mind it. I mean, I've seen worse shows out there, like Gene.
You mean Batwoman? You mean Batwoman?
No one's seen Batwoman. That movie got canceled.
Yeah,
I bet the TV show.
Oh,
also, I think your Shadow, your son's like trying to say stuff, but his audio is like really, it's pretty awful right now. So he's like getting lost in it.
Oh, is it? Is it better now because I wasn't speaking for a while?
It's a little bit better, yeah. It's a little bit muffled still.
All right, it is my tablets instead of the computer because the computer.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Dead.
I just noticed people like talking over you, and yeah.
Yeah, though I wasn't saying I hadn't said anything for a while.
Okay. So. Oh, my friend Foxshot, he just mentioned the Halo TV series. Did anyone of you might watch that? Do you guys?
I watched the first 3 episodes.
My friend Foxshot made me watch all of it because he's a fucking sadist, and it was awful. that show is like one of the worst adaptations I've seen of like a gaming franchise or any franchise like in a while. That show was fucking so bad.
There's aspects of it I didn't mind. I didn't mind them taking his helmet off because the actor.
I did. That was shit.
It's not. Yes, it's not needed. And I completely understand it. But when you have shows like that, you have to let the actor.
Yeah, but does it have to be in the first episode?
Isn't it a Gen 1 suit?
Yeah, it's literally a Spartan 2.
It's literally like it's all sealed. He can't.
Well, it's like, okay, if you want to show his face in the TV show, fine. But after like 2 decades of the games when nobody's ever seen his face, make it a reveal. Make it like at the season finale, not 30 minutes into the fucking first episode. Make it the end of the last episode of the season. That's completely epic and that actually follows the games and is fucking amazing. And then it's he takes his helmet off finally, and you see this guy with all these scars on his face, and he's like all grizzled and fucking awesome looking. Like, yeah, that's awesome. But it's like literally like, 30 minutes into the show, it's just some fucking redhead dude. Fuck you. Fucking suck my dick.
like the comparison that I like to use to support. I'm sorry, who said that? What?
Oh, I just said it was gay.
It sounds gay. Everything sounds gay, though.
Yeah. Oh no, but the thing I want to use as a comparison to bounce off your point there is I thought about the way that what's his name, Carl Urban did Judge Dredd.
Yeah, pretty much.
Like it was the entire freaking time except for that, and it wasn't even a good, but it kind of fit with the character, because even in the scenes of the comic books, he would still have his back to you. You would just see that he had like dark colored hair or something.
Yeah, well,
and that's
to be fair, any Judge Dredd movie after Stallone was automatically going to be better.
They went high theatrics with it. Yes.
Yeah, I agree. I really love the most recent version of Judge Dredd. I hope I wish they'd make a sequel to that one, because that one was actually worth going.
I haven't seen it, but I got to admit I like the Stallone version.
The new one with Carl Urban is fucking amazing.
It follows the comic book so much.
Yeah. It is so brilliant. He literally goes into a block by his fucking self and just shuts it down.
Yeah.
Like
literally, he was there with
he's there with the psychic chick, Anderson. But yeah.
He basically did it himself.
Yeah, I mean, come on, let's be honest.
But no, there was a lot of really cool stuff. They showed some effects of the weapons. They showed how brutal he was in hand-to-hand combat. He was an enhanced person, technically.
Mm-hmm.
Because Robot Wars.
Yeah.
Relic of a Lost War is that what he was, just like those fucking robots that are all over the place. And that was really cool.
Warriors,
and the Stallone movies actually made a really cool practical ABC Warrior, which was really
the ABC Warriors. That ABC Warrior in the Stallone movie, Hammerstein or whatever his name was, is cool. Yeah.
I'm not saying the Stallone. Okay, let me rephrase that. There was aspects of the Stallone movie that was good. I'm just saying
it was high fantasy Judge Dredd. So that's basically. They took the peak of what was going on and applied as much as they could imaginatively to make it
how the city looked, how the city looked and his uniform and like the whole atmosphere was like perfect
brilliant.
in a 90s movie. It was like perfect to the comics at the time. But the problem was like Stallone was like, I don't want to just wear like a mask like all the time. That was like the main problem.
And that movie did not need a comical relief. They could have ditched that guy within the first 30 minutes of the movie.
They had to.
I like Deuce Bigelow though.
Yeah. Rob Schneider.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Rob Schneider.
Eat recycled food.
Fucking hero.
That's my favorite scene. He was in the robot to get out of the gunshots. He's like, "You're going back to jail." He's like, "Fuck."
Yeah.
I read Judge Dredd comic books as a kid, and there was no guy in the background.
Yeah, no.
I mean,
Judge Dredd had like zero chill in those comics.
But there were quirky individual civilians he interacted with, and that was just an overplay for theatrics, because technically the important lesson that he was supposed to learn from that asshole was that people are still freaking people. You're people, right?
Yeah. No, I get you. Well, he's not a person, technically. He's a clone. Clone are not people.
What I wanted to say about the Halo show, though, to go back like a couple steps, is I've talked with Foxshot there, my friend, about this. What they should have done is they should have made it kind of like a Band of Brothers type show, where Master Chief or the Spartans, they weren't the focus. The focus was just like regular Marines trying to like survive through the fucking the Covenant like war and all that stuff. And then maybe at the end, like Master Chief shows up. Like you could do like an episode where it's like a team of ODST, like the normal special forces dudes. They're like being sent into this jungle, and their mission is like, we need to intercept like this guy who's gonna like fucking crash land onto Earth. And like the whole episode is them just like fighting through these Spartans and like through these Covenant and all that stuff. And then at the end, it's just like Master Chief like sailing down from the atmosphere and landing into this jungle. And they have to like
It'd be great to play that song right then and there too.
Yeah, and he just crash lands onto the earth, and they're like, they're securing the whole sector, and then he finally wakes up while they're getting like overwhelmed by like all these covenants, and like fucking Master Chief comes out of this crater, and he fucking starts helping them and shit. Yeah,
he drops 3 grenades right off the bat, like tink 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 tink.
It should have been stuff like that. He shouldn't have been the focus. Yeah, pretty much.
Wrecking asses.
That would have been cool.
He should have been the tweet.
Oh, it would have been so cool. I saw some of the clips of the fight scenes, and I was like,
The problem with that
what if we just give him a cardboard prop and then just forget to make it look like not cardboard?
Oh, yeah,
that's funny.
Yeah, I know what you mean. Where they forgot to put the CGI on it, and he's just holding a cardboard gun. Yeah,
like, oops, they noticed the mistake. I'm so fired.
Yeah,
no, don't notice.
Be back.
Nobody will notice the cardboard gun.
The problem with that, and I can see where you're going with less is more argument, and you're not wrong with that statement. What I'm thinking, though, and I could be wrong, and I probably am wrong, and that's fine, but it's my show, so I'm not going to be wrong this time, is that if you had a Halo show and you only had Master Chief show up for like maybe 5 seconds per episode, people would have been pissed.
Not necessarily, but I think it would as a series. If you played it out in certain perspectives, like they do in a lot of famous shows, like changing perspectives in things when they did the little heists in Firefly, is an example. But I just lost where I was going with that crap.
I mean, I don't know. It's like the He-Man, the He-Man, the He-Man card. What?
Excuse me. So I remember what my reference was now. Sorry, I apologize.
Where are you from?
And now we forgot it again.
the like them replaying the memories of their past with certain characters. Mm-hmm. So you saw the different perspective of who they were at that point because it's war and all that kind of crap. Like they could have done that in the series and been like Master Chief is an accent to a single episode because he's off doing something. And these ODST guys are sitting around talking, getting ready to drop, and they're just reminiscing. Next thing you know, they drop in, they start fighting some Covenant, and then they get a Cortana on their main headset, said Master Chief in way.
Yeah.
Like, keep pushing. We'll flank them. And then they're like, roger that. And then they just open up on these guys, draw all their attention, and then all of a sudden Master Chief jumps and has a rocket launcher.
Yeah,
and then flips off the Covenant and does a backflip. And
I did to him again.
While 3 Banshees are on his tail or something like that. Like that would be it's Master Chief. Yeah, he's just drawing aggro. He's cool.
Well, this is also based on those. Do you remember the original Halo 3 commercials? Yeah. Where it's just like the old guys, like they're like going to this museum and they're holding like an old Covenant gun, and it's like, oh well, this is hard to talk about, but I remember 40 years ago when this thing happened, and those were like the Halo 3 commercials. They were very like Band of Brothers, and that's the kind of shit I always wanted to see out of the TV show. And the TV show is like, no, here's this fucking Asian chick with fucking a bowl cut. Have fun. I'm like, no, I don't give a shit about her. Fuck off.
Yeah, she needed to disappear. I mean, the TV show took place not during the war with the aliens. It just kicked off.
Yeah,
it was a secret project.
Mm-hmm. So Master Chief was a badass even at that point.
She was doing it illegally. And then the Covenant showed up and they're like, we can fight back, but you need the stuff that I've been working on illegally.
Yeah.
Right. What I'm just saying is the lore that we got from the TV show. TV show. The lore that we got from the video games and some of the books was precursor. I mean, not precursor. That was down the road. That was like years down the road. Except for Reach, where the show was like early days. Because she just then made Cortana. So I don't know. I mean, it wasn't
The show
great.
was awful, and it was shit. And stop making excuses to Conall.
I'm trying to be understanding to other people's, because I know a few people that
you're not
like
allowed. That show was awful. I fucking was so bored.
You know what show is awful?
See, that's your problem right there, Conall. You're trying to be understanding to other people's feelings and emotions. Fuck that. The truth and facts don't care about that shit. And the truth and the facts are, the game was this way. Now they're going to make it this way, the story, to include people who didn't give a shit about it back then, but now we want to try to make them give a shit about it now. How about some fucking fan service for the loyal fans who followed it from the fucking beginning?
The writers bragged about the fact they never even played the games or read the books. So fuck them. Fuck them in the writer ass.
Right in their typewriter. Right up the typewriter.
Okay. The guy who played Master Chief, I like him as an actor. So I think I think that's part of the problem. I like him as an actor. So I'm trying to, and I've said this before, I don't blame an actor for shitty movies. I blame the writers for shitty movies.
I like that actor. I love that actor. He was great in American Gods.
American Gods. Matt Sweeney was fucking amazing for him.
Yeah, he was awesome. But like I said, don't take your helmet off within the first 30 minutes. Take your helmet off in the last episode of the season where he's fucking gone through all this shit. And then finally, you see Master Chief take his helmet off, and it's just this grizzled dude with scars and fucking like all this shit. And it's like, he's just like finally like calming down. He's gone through all this shit, and he's like, whew, fucking, I finally get to be like, out of the suit for a little bit. But
and make sure the actor's actually going to stick around too.
Yeah.
Put that in his contract. You got to.
It's the Mandalorian complex.
Mm-hmm.
Well, exactly. I don't mind him taking off in that show. Fuck that show. As much as I don't like the trilogy of Daddy Issues, and now TV series of Daddy Issues, because that's what that show is about, realistically.
Well, I think that's a little bit of projection, dude. Any great story out there is going to have the father and son conflict. It's as old as time itself. It's
not
one of the
main movie, not every fucking aspect of Star Wars has to be a daddy issue. There's more to life than daddy issues.
And yet it exists with every father and son that have ever existed.
Right, and I get that. But can we just have one Star Wars where there's not a father and son aspect to it, where it's just the good guys, the bad guys, and the dumbasses in between?
Well, Shadow just says that because he knows his son is just gonna like suplex him one of these days.
Oh, Jack, you should be listening to this. So
yeah, to give him ideas.
I was watching what was it? My friend Finn, who Derek has met. He is a big Lord of the Rings fan and a big Star Wars fan, and I give him shit on both. I said before that when it comes to Tolkien, his books are so fucking boring. Even the trees walked up and walked away. And I've always accused Star Wars of just being one movie after the other about daddy fucking issues. No original thought. We're just going to stick with the daddy issue motif.
Okay, again, with the original thought, there's no such thing. There have been trillions of humans who've all had the same fucking thoughts for millions of years. There's no such thing as originality.
I know that where I'm going with this. Hold on. Where I'm getting this when Rogue One comes out. And the whole reason why that woman is fucked up as she is why? Because of her dad. And
exactly, you're just proving my point. It's gonna happen.
So he's like, yeah, I can no longer do the whole daddy issue argument. Then Mando comes out, and he has a child, baby Yoda race that is like 30 years, 40 years older than him, and somehow they have the father and son relationship. Now I'm like, come on, people.
Well, to be fair, that was a reference to Lone Wolf and Cub. I don't know if you know those movies or that anime.
Yep.
Like, that's why I liked it, because it was completely a homage to like those old samurai movies, and in particular Lone Wolf and Cub, because that's what Star Wars originally was. Like, it was like a homage to samurai and like spaghetti westerns and like World War II movies. So I didn't mind it because I love those movies. Lone Wolf and Cub is like one of my favorite like samurai franchises. So seeing that reflected in The Mandalorian was pretty cool. So
don't get me wrong, I've watched all 3 seasons. Even there's only been 2, but really there's 3 because he hopped over in Boba Fett series. Which actually I have to say I like the Boba Fett. I did not mind that one. I really do like Mondo. I like the concept they're going with it, and the whole taking off the mask thing. Every time he's taking off his mask, there was a reason. Not just because I'm hot and sweaty, but there was an honest to God reason behind for the Mando to take off his helmet.
And even then, he was reluctant about it.
Yeah, I get that. I respect that. Kudos for Disney for doing something right.
And then the robot says, "Don't worry, I won't tell anyone," and no one will be able to remember. And it just walks in and blows up. So,
yeah.
Does it count? It's a robot. I'm not a living creature.
Oh no, I'm just.
It's like if you actually look into the Mandalorian complex, I think there's like 4 base religions or 5 base religions or something like that within their culture. So and he was a part of a certain thing that's never take your helmet off ever. So he's sinning. He is no longer Mandalorian when he takes that head off ever. Mm-hmm. And even if he puts it back on, it doesn't matter. Doesn't matter.
I mean, I like the Witcher TV show.
How do they brush their damn teeth?
They take their okay. They're allowed to take their mask off as long as there's no other living.
Yeah, in private.
Yeah. Okay. They can take it off in private, but the moment they're out,
nobody wants to
see it had to be a robot to remind him of that cultural effect.
It's basically like a sci-fi hijab.
It really is. I mean, it'd be the other kind of weird argument I have with that is if all the Mandos wore the same armor, same armor down, helmet, everything that was the same. It's like we don't take our gear off because we're one people. This is what we see. I can get that argument, but not one of them has the same armor as the next. They're all different detailed. So it's not
every job is the same.
What?
Not every job is the same.
Yeah, actually they are. Even down to the
jobs, and you've got burkas, you've got all sorts of stuff.
Right. Well, what I mean is like the headgear that they wear, the women wear, it's all the same size. They're forced to put it on, even though it's painful. They don't make hat sizes, so to speak. It could be like that. Now with the Mandalorians, maybe there's something about it, with their individuality. Because I've seen dozens of different paint jobs on action figures and designs and things like that. I'm really not up on that because.
They're warriors, and individuality is kind of important. Then
that's like the battalion insignia. Think of it like Miller, because they're a highly militaristic environment, even though they're neutral now, and that's what the thing is apparently. But true Mandalorians are considered the people hate when I use the word perfect, so I put it in quotations. Perfect beings as far as humanity can be. Super strong, super fast, hyper reflexes, very smart, know multiple languages. Are trained to fight at early ages if they want to, and then there's politicians, but then all those politicians have military training.
Well, they're technically the Spartans of space.
They're space Spartans. Yeah.
But see, that's in that concept the only way to weaken that structure, because could you imagine that composite body with the ability to use the Force? It would be disgusting, because there's the certain ways of the Jedi where it amplifies your body. So you're allowed to move faster, hit harder, jump higher. So if your body is what's considered absolutely top tier, what happens when you juice it with the Force? It's just exponential. So they didn't want that originally as a concept when they created the Mandalorian people. So they said as a result of them they're incapable of the Force, but at times there have been bloodlines that were resistant to, like you see it in some of the books and series and stuff like that you read about the Mandalorian universe. Like some of them, these guys are standing there completely in their armor, hunched down, and somebody's like force pushing on them, and they're like, no. And they're standing there just while everything else is scattering around them. And they're just like, nope, I don't think so. I don't believe in your Force.
I mean, even their armor is made
brilliant,
to be able to
brilliant sect of lore that they really missed out on.
Yeah.
In the universe, because as a storyline, it's adept. It still has Jedi and Sith, and it can talk about Old Republican stuff because of the Mandalorian Wars.
Yeah,
and there is even an entire story complex where the Mandalorians controlled 2/3 of the galaxy.
The Knights of the Old Republic, like PC games, they're pretty much about the Mandalorian Wars. It's like a huge part of like the plot, because that's like when Darth Revan like went to the dark side and all that stuff. So
they're trying to canonize that, which is cool. But if they do, they've already decanonized the Mandalorian Wars.
Yeah.
Because that was one of the reasons why nobody knew where true Mandalore was, and probably has never met one or realized they met one. Because at the end of that, they were basically erased from the galaxy maps.
Yeah.
Nobody knew where they were.
I'm looking forward to the next season of the show. I'll watch it. It's like the Lord of the Rings show it's on right now. I watch it mainly because I have something to talk about, even if it's nothing more than just to pick fun out of it, because content is content.
I mean, but you have to, I have watched it. I haven't seen it.
I watched the first episode with the Fox shot over there. If you're still watching, I don't know. And it was awful. We hated it.
It's not good. I'm not saying the Ring of Power is good.
No, it was shit.
Saying I liked, other than, I kind of like the way, I like the scenery. I like the way the scenery.
It better be good. They spent $1 billion on it.
Yeah.
I'm watching.
Even that was just generic fantasy. Like it didn't move me or anything. It was just like, oh, here's a glowing tree with some elves around it. Like, hey.
Oh, I wasn't talking about. I get what you're saying, but I wasn't even thinking about that. I was thinking about the not Khazad-dûm, the Mines of Moria, how they have everything, and the Elven cities. I think it's pretty. I think aspect of it.
It was Khazad-dûm, because at this point Khazad-dûm is still there.
Amazon's already fucked over enough people. Last thing I'm going to do is give them any of my money if I don't have to.
Yeah.
So I'm not the one giving the money. So,
do you have a Prime account?
I do, but it's not mine.
I do, and I still didn't watch it actually on Prime. I still went to high season for Tuga.
I know the books are dry, and there are adaptations where they cut out a lot of.
Well, they don't.
The Council of Elrond, 100 fucking pages for one chapter. Yeah, I get it, but it's still without the original trilogy and The Hobbit. So many things that we love and talk about on a regular basis would not exist in their exact format the way they are now. We owe as much to The Lord of the Rings as we do to any other, series of books, except for, like the original stuff. There was no need for a new version of The Lord of the Rings. It hasn't been that long.
Well, yes and no.
No, only if you're an SJW.
Otherwise, no, hold on. The reason why we need a new version is the last thing to remember from the old one was a elf and dwarf love fest. That was just weird.
That stuff was stupid.
That was in the book.
Different crowd. Yeah. What?
Was that in the book?
In the Hobbit?
Yeah.
He flirted. No, because that's the scene he's talking about, is the female elf who didn't actually exist in the book.
That stuff was stupid, but those movies are at least fun.
I was really only talking about The Lord of the Rings, not The Hobbit, because I haven't seen them. And if what you're talking about,
are you talking about Gimli and Legolas? Come on.
I mean, I've seen some drawings.
No, Legolas and Gimli at the end of in the end of the book, after the scouring of the Shire and the appendixes, there's a huge chapter how Legolas and Gimli left their homelands together to go off exploring together as best friends. That was part of it.
Yeah.
But
eventually they all
those two too.
They all went to the Grey Havens too. Like
More like the gay havens. Am I right?
Gimli gained enough notoriety in the elven culture as a dwarf to be offered a spot on a ship to the Foreverlands.
Okay, but people brought up the Hobbit movies. There's some silly stuff in that, but they're still just fun adventure movies. And at the core, they still at least respect the lore a little bit.
Oh yeah,
this show doesn't respect it at all. It's fucking.
Well,
trash.
here's the other rub that the show's kind of running into is the show lost the right. It no longer has the rights to use the. I cannot pronounce it. Silmarillion? Yeah.
Yeah. No, they had the appendices. Like they had the rights to like the little appendices to basically what Tolkien basically put as as an afterthought.
Yeah, his lore notes. They were his lore notes. Come on, he's a DM. He wrote the first successful tabletop platform campaign.
And then they basically ignored half of that even, so
yeah. The chapter about Aragorn and Arwen and how their life went on, Legolas and Gimli, the Ents, and a few other things that were in the end of the book.
Yeah. Even the first video games.
I mean, do I expect the show to last? No.
Do we hope it tanks and they lose a fortune? Yes.
Well, yeah. I'm actually, I'm enjoying the House of the Dragon, or as it
people are saying it's way better.
What?
People are saying it's way better.
Oh yeah. Well,
because they're not trying on purpose to bastardize and defile a beloved story that's lasted almost 100 years. Amazon is actively trying to shit on Tolkien's work and change it as much as they can for the reason of changing it and indoctrinating people into things that don't need to be indoctrinated into.
Like there is some wokeness in House of the Dragons, but they at least explain it within setting. Like they try to explain why there's like black Valyrians. Like they explain like, oh well, they intermarried with like the people from the Summer Isles and like all that stuff. Like Lord of the Rings doesn't make any of that like shit. Like okay, there's just a black elf and you're just supposed to accept it. There's a black dwarf and you're just supposed to accept it.
Yeah, it's surrounded by, and it's the only one. From what I hear, there's like literally one black elf and all in the background, nothing but white elves. So what do we say?
But
that one got sunburned to shit. What the hell?
To agree with Victor, the only person who's acting like a proper fucking elf is the black guy.
Yeah, I said that before, but the stream even started, I think.
Yeah. I mean,
well, they said one of the greatest failings of the elven culture was that the reason why Sauron took so much power is because they just were like complacent. They're like, what's that fucking? Nothing's gonna happen to us. Look how big we are.
Well, in the show, just the actors that play all the elves, they're just humans with pointy ears. There's nothing elvish about them. But surprisingly, the one that plays like the black wolf, wood elf, he actually seems like an elf. He's kind of aloof. He's kind of like inhuman a little bit. Like he seems like he's actually like 90 years old or whatever. Like
if
none of the other elves do that.
If you actually look at some of the interviews for the actor, there's some side notes there that he says that ever since he was a small child, where he grew up, he just wanted to be an elf.
Yeah.
And I can respect that. There's aspects of that I can respect.
But he should also respect why people are like, why are you a black elf in Tolkien? Like,
unfortunately, there's not going to be any great answers. There really isn't.
Tolkien wrote it the way he wanted it, and that's all that matters.
If it was like a show based on like a Dragon Age, and it's like, there's a black elf, nobody would give a shit. But this is Tolkien, with a very specific vision.
Right. And even with going back to the House of Dragon, George R.R. Martin is still around to make an argument. Yeah, there's why aren't there black, from the
Targaryens.
Well, like I said, they at least try to explain it in the show. Like, okay, these Valyrians intermarried with like these Summer Isle people who are like black people from like the Caribbean, basically fantasy Caribbean, and that's how we got black Valyrian.
I mean, if Tolkien was around, God, he'd be a lich by now. But if Tolkien was around, and he says, "Yeah, whatever," it'd be a whole different argument. But he's dead, and the only people have any idea what he's thinking.
I know, but you cannot ignore the fact.
Oh, I can ignore it.
That Amazon released it on the anniversary of his death, not his birth.
Did they really?
I thought they did it to when his son died, not him. No, I thought it was Christopher Tolkien's. That
was Tolkien's death.
And we can't act like when Tolkien was writing this, he had never met a black man before.
Oh,
he knew they existed, and he could have put them in his story. He chose not to for a reason. Why? Because when he was reading the lore that he read as a child and as a teen and in college or what have you, those people had their own mythologies and hadn't crossed over into the countries that had elves, etc. It just wasn't a thing. Otherwise, he would have done it.
Yeah, that's why it's a mythic prehistory.
Yeah, he wanted to make a myth for like the Anglo-Saxons, which has been lost.
Yeah, it was. I mean, you got to write what you know. He was very well versed in a lot of literature. He was a professor, wasn't he? Like he had degrees and all that kind of stuff.
He created his own fucking language.
He did. Well, he created several. He wrote all the songs.
Well,
there's a lot of other aspects in there that's a DM's DM right there.
Yeah, if there's one writer that we knew how they fought, it was fucking Tolkien. He wrote on everything. He sent letters. He had like all sorts of pen pals and stuff. We have know exactly how he fought.
The same with Lovecraft. Lovecraft is written more letters than any 10 human beings in human history.
Yeah,
his thoughts are well documented, and his bits of prejudice were eventually overcome by exposure to those kinds of people that he had issues with, and he grew up in an area where that mentality was fostered, but he got over it. Tolkien was way beyond that, and probably fought alongside people like that during the war.
Yeah,
and he wasn't omitting people because he didn't like them. He was omitting people because they didn't exist in the lore. If you were right.
Yeah.
I guess I should clarify this. I'm not trying to justify the show. I think the show will basically kill itself. I don't think. What was that?
We can sit here.
I'm just calling you a shill. I said a liar and a shill.
Hey, I'm not making him money. The show will end up killing itself. And I just like
but the fact that you're watching it, only feeds them.
I mean, but
I know it's only one bite at a time, but the only way you can, help make these things never happen again is by not participating. By participating, even one man is enough to maybe swing that pendulum in their favor. So for me personally, it's not going to happen. I don't care if they came over here and offered me $1 million. I'm not watching their shit. Okay, I have principles, and those principles include watching Amazon pay for what they did in the last 2 years of the nonsense that went on, where they became a monopoly over anything they desire because they screwed people, paid other people to help them screw people because they had the money to screw people. Oh, yeah. There are thousands and thousands and thousands of small businesses that will never exist again, and Amazon is laughing on their grave, pissing on their grave.
And then all these supposed anti-corporate progressives are defending the show now because it has black people and queer people on it, and it's like you're defending Amazon, one of the evils of the world that you normally rail against. What the fuck are you doing?
Question: does anybody here shop at Walmart?
No, because I'm Dutch. Fuck you.
Well, right? Yeah, you don't have that. All right.
Again, Conall, where I live, there is nothing else. There is literally nowhere else to shop.
So you are in a very special situation, and I'm not blasting you for this one. Me and Derek here live both in major cities where we have options. Would you say that's fair?
Yeah, Indianapolis, Indiana.
Yeah.
Yeah, what are your options? Target or Walmart? Is that what I'm hearing?
No, we got Myers. We've got if I want just the grocery stores, we've got Aldi's everywhere. There's at least 3 that I know within a stone's throw, and they're all about the same drive time.
But if you want non-food items, where do you go?
Depends on what I'm looking for.
Non-food, once again, depends on what you're looking for. If I need like tools and stuff, I have Menards or Lowe's.
We don't have that. We don't have any. We have Lowe's, we have Home Depot, but like, if you want to do your
what side of town we're talking about. Yeah.
If you want to do your one-stop shopping for the week, go into one store and be done. In the old days, we used to have a whole bunch of things.
Yeah.
Now we've got Walmart and Target to a lesser extent. If you want to pay literally twice the price.
Well, Target. I'm not saying Target is innocent in any of this. Walmart was the beginning of end to a lot of these small stores. And Amazon was a death knell.
Yep. And they both benefited from a huge lie that was perpetrated across the planet, and now we all have to suffer from it. And what would happen if Walmart and Amazon went out of business? 10 other people would be able to come in and take their place and allow that good old-fashioned thing called competition, which there no longer exists for us.
Oh, I agree. I get that. What pisses me off is I do with the sport that me and Derek are both in. A lot of the garb, the clothing that we wear, we have to find people to sew it and make it. You can't go to Walmart or wherever to buy this stuff.
Yeah.
What?
I'm agreeing with you.
We have to get customly made, and Walmart came through. It's like, well, we're going to put all the small mom and pop fabric stores out of business. Now we're going to stop selling fabric.
Also, Derek, I really want a cigarette right now, and just seeing you
I'm
smoke
sorry.
is like, I'm drinking. I'm an ex-smoker. I used to chain smoke. I used to smoke like 70 cigarettes a day, and I'm fine like normally. But whenever I drink, I'm like, oh, I want a cigarette. So I'm just watching you like smoke a cigarette. I'm like, oh.
Have you ever watched Dennis Leary's No Cure for Cancer?
Yeah.
Yes.
I smoke them all the way down to the filters. That's where they hide the, what do you say, heroin or cocaine?
That's where they hide the heroin. Yeah.
That's where they hide the heroin.
Yeah.
Dennis Leary is my spirit animal.
I mean, to be fair, he probably stole most of that from.
He's literally my spirit animal.
So did Jack go to bed on us?
Yeah, I had to go click him off. He was snoring away, poor little guy.
It's all right.
He got a big workout today, and he walked to and from school twice in the freaking 100+ degree weather, and then did an after school activity. The kid's just freaking amazing. I can't even begin to tell you the kinds of shit I got away with and the trouble I got into. The kid's never done anything warranting a slap, let alone restriction, punishment, anything ever. I mean, when he says he wants to go into religion, he may very well be the next pope or whatever. He's such a good person and so goddamn smart.
If he becomes the next pope, I really need to get on his good side now.
He's gonna become the overlord of Earth and just give all of us slaps, just constantly.
Oh, I'll be dead. I'll be dead. I told him when you're 18, I'm done, man. You won't need me anymore.
Oh, so maybe 4 years ago. I mean, come on, dude. You need to hang out a little bit longer than that.
Oh yeah. I just fuck with him. Get him on his toes and get ready to, be a man, because God only knows what'll happen. If I can make it 10 or 20 or 50, I'm going to shoot for it. Of course, I'd love to have grandkids, but the way things are going, like I said, that pile of brass is entirely a possibility where I live. I live in fucking California, for Christ's sake. It's not going to get better, and we're not even going to talk about that. But he's just a remarkable individual, and I'm jealous, man. He's going to get to take fencing. I had to pay for that shit.
Yeah.
That wasn't even a freaking option. The girls got fencing. Okay, no, that's not true. The girls got fencing and archery. the reason for not letting the boys do it because boys are naturally more violent. I'm like, you fuckers.
Yeah. We had archery. I took 2 years of archery, even though I was better at archery than the teacher, but that's because I had a bow and arrow. From as soon as I could figure out how to make one at home, I started. It was just a tree branch and some string, but at least I was trying.
My son is becoming.
Go ahead. So
I was gonna say my boy right now. He's not even 2. He's starting to become ingenious.
Mm-hmm.
He is learning. He doesn't care about actually doing anything except for getting what he wants. So if we put something up that he wants, that he can't have, like say deodorant stick, because he will chew on it. He's a baby. He will stack boxes in a certain way, build himself a crawl labyrinth, get all the way up to where he wants to, and get it. And I'm like, you're not even 2, bro. You're scaring me.
Yeah.
Get him some Legos. Just get him some Legos and watch his brain just multiply. That's what did it for Jack. He wasn't even 2 years old, and I bought him some just some generic blue Legos off eBay, and that was the start of his brain just doing stuff that the other kids just aren't doing.
Just give him a disassembled AR-15 or like AK-47, and say like you have to put this together in like 30 seconds.
30 seconds isn't too bad.
For an AK, that's easy, but for an AR, I mean.
Okay, so the AR is okay. Its assembly craft is really good.
Link is in the chat if you want to join us. I know it's late where you're at because it's late here.
Who?
Omanal.
Oh yeah.
Come on, Jeff Bezos, get on here.
Yeah, you got to watch out for Omen, man. He's freaking pretty smart, man.
Oh yeah, I know. I got dragged onto
especially with the fact that he'll talk your ear off, hours after you say you got to go.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was like, I was going to send him the link, honestly, earlier. Then after last week,
excuse me,
it's like, we're both, he's showing up. So everybody stop talking shit now.
No, I met him on a...
No. Don't ever stop talking shit. I'm just, the problem was I actually fell asleep and I woke up and I'm like, great, now I can't go back to sleep.
So how much money did you lose on the Wings of Power, Omanal?
I don't know. Not as much as going into space.
Yeah. No, I remember I got dragged onto that argument with you by the old geek, and I just saw your camera. I'm like, oh, what the fuck am I arguing with Jeff Bezos? I'm gonna get assassinated here.
Hey, he's not Hillary. He's not Hillary Clinton. Come on, give him a break.
No. See, the problem is that everyone people mysteriously die. My view has always been, if you're going to punish someone, you make them work at an Amazon facility.
Yeah, that's true.
Right above above the door as you go into the Amazon factory, it says, "Through work you find freedom."
Well, yes. Except I'm trying to figure out what language you put it in. Maybe Esperanto.
Oh, don't do it in German.
I don't. I've actually, to be fair on this, I've actually been to Dachau a couple of times. So
yeah,
I think that's something that always amazes me when people say stuff. I'm like, I've actually been to a concentration camp.
Oh no, I completely get you. My grandparents made a big deal of me going when I was like 14. Because it was already it's a whole lot. It's I've said this before. It's a whole lot easier seeing some of those sites when you're already in Europe. Now going from America to Europe is a whole different bird.
Oh yeah. So what are you guys talking about here?
Well, originally we were going to try to talk about movies, but like everything else, always turns into whatever.
No. As soon as I saw him, he's talking about 2 years old. I'm like, the best thing I've done was bought 3 bags of Mega Blocks from Target because they're big. Yeah, I see. Yep. I mean, and my son put them together, and because I have the rolling, the only problem, of course, is he hits them, they splash everywhere. But the nice thing about Mega Blocks is they're big enough that you don't accidentally suck them up, and you don't have to worry about stepping on them as much because you'll see where you're stepping.
That's fair.
That's a good start. We did those as well, or at least his family members gave him those when he was really young, and he incorporated those in his builds, whatever he was doing, anything that's a building toy. I say Legos because they're so universal, but you know,
I love Legos. Believe me, I really do. I just wish that my son likes to throw things a lot. Yeah, I made the mistake of buying him. I forget what it was. It was magnets at that age, and he started throwing them, and his mother confiscated them. And I mean, it was an expensive thing, but it made a spherical ball. Anyway, they're now just refrigerator magnets. But yeah, she had a bunch of fish tanks. Oh yeah, I mean, don't get me wrong. Anything you can put your hands on. The other thing is, if you have fish tanks and stuff, I found that this works for my son. Is if you make the biggest faces and you make it out whenever he has to clean the filters and stuff, he thinks that's hilarious. So then he cleans the fish filters all the time.
Yeah.
No,
Good.
I had a ex-girlfriend of mine, this was some years ago, had a little boy, and I'm like, I'm gonna buy him Legos, trying to be the good boyfriend / whatever the hell, not parent, but parent to this little guy. And I bought him a bunch of Legos and not thinking anything about it because I spoil kids because I like kids. And next thing I know, I come back next day and the Legos are all over the floor. I'm like, oh, let's pick them up. And the girlfriend's like, I wouldn't touch those Legos. I'm like, why? His favorite thing to do right now is to pee on them.
Oh, geez.
I mean, like, could be worse things, I guess.
Yeah.
Oh, go ahead, sorry.
No. Which movies were you guys talking about?
I was going to say, like,
movies from the 90s down. I'm trying to stay away from a lot of the bullshit woke nonsense that is movies. Well, not all movies, but most movies these days. And like 90s down just seemed like it was a decent era for movies.
I was going to say, speaking of mega blocks, that's what they're called in Dutch Dredd. Like, the big apartment buildings. They're called mega blocks.
Mm-hmm.
And that was going to lead into my question. What's your favorite dystopian movie?
Oh, if we're going to talk about dystopian, I'm trying to think of I'm not sure if you consider this. What would Dark City be?
I mean, that's pretty damn dystopian.
I love Dark City.
Yeah,
I love the whole idea. I love the facts, and I know you guys have talked about this before, about the creepy little kid that goes through, the little alien. Have you seen that, Conall? Dark City?
The Dark City? Years ago. It's got the guy who has a lazy eye in it, right?
I guess so. All I remember is Mr. Book and Mr. Hand. That's how
he was in the main guy was in the Knight's Tale with
yes,
Heath Ledger
and Jennifer Connelly.
He was the bad guy in A Knight's Tale,
and Kiefer Sutherland. Yeah. I Dark City is probably one of my favorites because I like that whole idea at the beginning because something's off, and it's only when you find out that they're in the spaceship. And but I love that they keep going in a circle. For anyone that loves Call of Cthulhu, he's like, you can't get there. I've tried. I can never get to the whatever beach they're trying to get to. I just like the whole idea of it. If we're going to talk to, about what is the soul and what makes a human being, and it's I enjoyed it. I enjoyed Dark City a lot.
Movie's creepy.
What other dystopian ones? I'm trying to think.
I'd have to go with the original trilogy, even though they're not technically a trilogy. That would be Soylent Green, Silent Running, and Rollerball. Those the classic.
I love Rollerball.
My son and I did a month dedicated to those movies and some other things, reviewing them. And my son, he got it. When we were watching all of them, he's like, "Oh man, we're doing this, aren't we? This is a real thing. This is going to happen to my kids or me or whatever." And then when we did Rollerball, he took the show. I let him talk about the whole thing, and he got it. The giving up of freedom and responsibility for pleasure. He wants no part of that. He's pushing himself more than any other kid within 100 miles of myself right now. It's those movies are, except for Rollerball, which ends on a high note. The other movies, not so much. You can end up crying if you're, that kind of a person. At the end of Soylent Green or Silent Running, you can end up, literally in tears. Even now, 20, 30, 40, whatever years later, Although, if I wasn't allowed to pick those movies, I'd probably pick Blade Runner, because again, with what is a soul, etc. Personally, I think every one of those replicants had souls. I don't know how or why, but that's the impression I got, because they're played by people. And I know some people think that movie is kind of boring or whatever. I really didn't find it boring. I found it just, more interesting and more subtle and more, film noir kind of feel to it. The whole sort of.
You're talking about Blade Runner. I think the problem that everyone forgets about is all that stuff in Blade Runner was then incorporated in so many of our other role-playing games, like Shadowrun. If you hear the word city speak, that's exactly where it comes from. And I know everyone likes the extended version, but I'll be honest, I like the theatrical version where he does the voiceover, because it explains a lot of things that are never really explained if you haven't gotten that. And I know a lot
whichever version of the movie actually has the end where he talks about Rachel actually not having an expiration date. I saw one version recently, and that they just cut that whole part off, and I'm like, what the fuck?
Yeah,
it had a happy ending. They're going to go off.
No, I agree. Even the theatrical version, I think, had it where he mentions that she has no expiration date. But the other thing with 2049 was it was so visual. I said that's fine, but again, it was super slow. I'll tell you this much: whenever they talk about Blade Runner, go watch the Blade Runner Dark Lotus on Adult Swim. Black Lotus. It's go watch that one. One is it has a hell of a lot more action, and I find it a lot more interesting. But it's the cartoon, or whatever you want, animated, whatever you want to call it. I think that one has a bit more because it delves a bit more into it, and the girl wakes up, she doesn't really know who she is, and she's trying to find out, and it has. You talk about a good villain, or semi-villain. How do I want to put this? It's it's interesting in how it goes into it, because there's a lot more layers, but they have a Blade Runner chasing after her, and that guy is no joke. I mean, he makes Decker look, well, to be fair, Decker's like super low on the totem pole compared to this guy. I mean, he goes after.
He's more cerebral, less physical.
Oh, no. Well, he's both cerebral and just a badass with like a gun and coming in. I mean,
Decker?
No. I'm saying the Black Lotus. There are two Blade Runners, and it's interesting, but they're complete badasses.
Because I always thought Decker was supposed to be kind of like a Sam Spade or whatever from the Bogey movies.
Yeah.
The private detective, even though he worked for the company or whatever, he just had that whole sort of down on his luck private investigator feel to it, and I think that's where they were trying to go, even though they needed the backup of the company or whatever, the police force or whatever, to do it. But he was like, he's that one guy who just, kind of maybe even still stuck in the past, maybe, grew up, in a poor area or whatever. He was just, kind of out of place for the future. Even Edward James Olmos' character seemed more in tune with the world around him than Decker did.
Yeah. Can we count this one as a dystopian? Is the Fifth Element?
This is definitely a dystopia,
kind of, but I don't think I'd fully go there. Well, what was yours, Derek?
I was actually going to say Fifth Element.
Well, explain why. I mean, you probably have a reason.
I like it because since we're talking about comic book flares and stuff like that, it felt like a live action one, so to speak.
Yeah, it definitely felt like that taxi driver scene from Heavy Metal.
Yeah. Like there was a lot of really cool things. That was actually my second thought too. Was Heavy Metal. That I saw that when I was 12. That screwed me up.
I'm waiting a little while for my son to see that because he doesn't do well with nudity. For whatever reason, maybe those 2 years that stunted every kid's growth across the planet. But you know what I find amazing? I was just thinking about, we were talking about dystopian movies. You know what movie I never, ever hear about whenever any of us are talking about movies or science fiction or anything like this at all? We never, ever, ever talk about The Matrix.
I agree. You know, the problem that I have with The Matrix, and I went back and rewatched it, is like so many other movies, is just like Game of Thrones. It's great at the beginning. I really enjoyed the first one. If you studied psychedelics, you begin to understand a lot of the references that are coming into it. But it had so much success, and they sort of boxed themselves in the corner that the next two movies were just visual spectacles, and they kind of ignored the story. And that's the problem that I had with that one, because I'm like, well, you can already alter things. And then, you know, I hate saying it, and then the newest one, it's kind of
that
like
was a hot mess. I'm just surprised that they were able to get all the actors back, except for well, not all the actors. They got the female and Keanu Reeves. And Keanu Reeves, you know, I heard somebody said he only did that for money. I'm like, man, that guy has money. You know what he does with his money? He gives it away. He doesn't care.
Yeah. I mean, he actually rides the damn bus in Los Angeles, and trust me, I used to have to do that all the damn time. No, thank you. I'm going to pass. You know, when the sheriff of LA says, "Don't come here. We can't protect you," I'm good. I'm staying here. I'm fine. You know, you don't get much more dystopian than the reality of the Matrix movie. I mean, you really don't. But it's just weird that, you know, it's kind of locked into its own thing. There's not much you can draw from it. You know, it's really like isolated itself from all science fiction out there. You just can't, there's nothing you can take, except maybe the one thing would be those octopus robots that chased everybody around. Those things were badass. But that's about all you can get from that movie or that trilogy or whatever that you can transpose to another setting.
I'm going to break my rule.
Dangerous robots.
For a dystopian movie or a movie I like, I'm going to kind of break my rule. I was really trying to stay out of the 2000s because there's a lot of dumb movies in the 2000s. But for anybody who's ever watched the movie, it has Christopher Evans in it, the guy who played Captain America, Snowpiercer.
Yes. Well, actually, you know what's funny is I enjoyed the series more than I did the movie.
I've yet to see the series just because I really love the fucking movie. I haven't seen
either. They're on my list of things to watch, but I've been freaking swamped with I literally, if I get to watch 4 hours of regular TV a week, that's a big deal. Lately, I've actually had to, you know, shut off YouTube and find some time to watch, you know, something. Even, you know, like last night, my son and I, we managed to scrape in 2 episodes of Venture Brothers, and that was like a big deal for us. That was like the height of the day together, you know. It was just so damn busy. I've got to just, you know, during the day, I guess, when there's a lot of dead air on YouTube, I'm just going to have to start, you know, catching up, because there's, my problem with movies is always the actors, because having worked around certain things, I know the dirty shit these bastards are up to, and I just can't, you know, like you mentioned, what was that movie, Heat, with Robert De Niro?
Yeah,
I can't watch anything with him in it. I can't. I know too much about him. I just can't. I can't. You know, and even before I knew about him personally, I watched the movie. We went to the theater, and I fell asleep watching that movie in the theater.
I agree with you when it comes to current Robert De Niro. He's very political and he's fucking annoying. But I can kind of like separate like younger him with like current him.
No. Well, but Shadow, like you said, he knows their personal lives. Yeah. And that's the problem. And this was before, I guess, they went all crazy.
Yep, it was.
So
you know, and I'm not gonna air their dirty laundry. You can look; it's out there. You know, I used this example a little while ago. If your sister was married to a guy who's doing this shit, it'd be on like Donkey Kong. You would go over there and you would knock him down quite a few pegs, and you pull her out of that situation. And I can't do that with these people, but I know they're doing worse shit, and it's not always what you might assume that I'm talking about, but with that kind of money comes that kind of next level depravity and degradation of one's soul. You no longer look at other people the same way as we would.
Sorry, Victor.
Sorry. Oh yeah.
Well, if we're talk about
just being slightly jealous. Fine.
What about let's not forget Terminator 1 and 2.
Right.
I guess,
really, just one.
yeah. I mean,
Terminator 2 is one of the best action movies ever.
2 was a very good echo. 2 was a very good echo. Yeah.
If they never made another Terminator movie and all we got was the first one, I'd been happy with that one. That movie, you talk about movies that fuck people up. That movie fucked me up. There's a reason I don't trust computers.
The future is the father of him. Oh my gosh.
Yeah, it's hard for me because, I literally, growing up, watched a lot of the movies we're talking about. Terminator, even Total Recall, I've seen dozens of times. And even True Lies was pretty good. I watched Bruce's channel. I was moderating over there, while they're talking about this movie. And I'm like, yeah, it was, as a movie, cool, no problem. But when Arnold tells me to fuck my freedom and screw my freedom, you instantly rose to, the 10 most wanted people I want to see go down hard. I don't care.
I've never liked him as an actor. So
another good example was Billy Joel. Huge fan growing up as a kid. My very first record album was Glass Houses. It was epic. I listened to that.
Funny.
I listened to that one day in, day out for years, and all of his other stuff. And then he brings Hillary and Bill out on stage. Out they go into the garbage.
Yeah.
Those people want me dead. Okay, and I'm not just speaking generally. Okay, they can't be in. He can't be in my record collection. You can't get to where he was and not have heard about the body count at the very least.
So that's like saying, hold on, really quick. That's like saying I can't be Catholic, nor can Jack, because there's been multiple pictures of Catholic cardinals having pictures with the Clintons.
Yeah, but are you a specific fan of that cardinal, or are you just a Catholic?
Yeah, I'm okay with that.
Yeah, what amazes me as much as they point over to the Catholic priest and what I get mad about the things that they did to protect them is you look at teachers unions and what goes on in school, and it's far worse. But no one wants to talk about that.
I honestly, I don't know if I'd go worse, because if you know what happens in other countries when it comes to the things we're talking about that have been done and then swept under the rug, they had more hands-on ability with more people that they could get away with those evil deeds than the schools right now in the United States are jealous of those same people we're talking about. The school would love to be able to be in that position. They're trying, but they're not there yet.
No, I mean statistically in the U.S., teachers are worse than the priest. I mean that's what amazed me, but that doesn't get put on the news. That's what I find interesting.
Yeah, it's never gonna.
It only did if it was a female teacher getting pregnant by a boy student.
And then they say, well, that should be a misdemeanor. What? And then you find out that poor boy who was exploited by that teacher now has to pay child support, and that's it. What the hell? Of all the people,
don't even get me started on those. Oh man, that's another hot button for me. Child support is, and there's a way out of it. And if you guys ever get yourself in there, I'll let you know how you can get out of it scot-free without paying a dime, and it's legal. But the fact that those laws exist the way they do are designed to do but one thing, and that's fuck over half the population.
You know what though? having paid child support and having to go to court over this. What amazes me is, I was giving a lot more money, and it has more problems with his mom. But when she was trying to limit my ability to get it, which was more of a control thing than anything, I had to take her to court, and she was mad because the judge would side with me because I was completely reasonable. I knew what the law was, but man, I've seen so many people get screwed over because the judge doesn't like men.
And exactly. And it doesn't matter even if it's a male judge.
I completely agree with all of this, but this is very political. And Conall said at the beginning, we don't want to go into politics. We want to talk about movies.
So, we started
unfortunate side effect.
I'm trying to help you out here, Conall.
Yeah, I appreciate that. At a certain point, I just realized the barn door was open. I'm like, fuck.
Started because I mentioned kids.
Let's rewind to the Matrix. I think that's where we went down the rabbit hole.
Would you count
Fifth Element?
Hey, James. Would you count The Crow, the 1984
definitely Dystopian.
Yes. I would
count dystopia.
I don't know, to be honest. It was a dystopian story, but was it a dystopian world?
Oh, yeah, definitely, dude.
If you've ever been to Detroit,
I think it could be New York on any given day.
Wait,
just New York on any given day.
It was like 80s, 90s New York, like exaggerated. There were a lot of movies back then like that.
Speaking of which, you mentioned Detroit. RoboCop.
Yeah.
We did
I was
going
to say this. This was going to be my answer.
Oh, I'm sorry.
No, I'm kidding. It was mentioned earlier.
When it comes to like less serious dystopias, RoboCop is my favorite. For one, it's by a Dutch director because Dutch pride or whatever. But I just enjoy that it's like the peak of like that 1980s like ultra capitalist like right wing dystopia like that all cyberpunk is based upon. Like to me, it's like it's one of the best cyberpunk movies, but just because it just captures that feel the best.
And it could actually be, in like a timeline, one of the original sparks of the whole cyberpunk.
Yeah, definitely.
Yes.
One of the catalysts of that mentality, that way of thinking of the future.
Oh yeah, definitely. If you want to get to a more serious dystopia, one of my favorite movies is probably Children of Men.
Which, I love Children of Men.
Wow, completely forgot about that.
I don't think I've seen that one.
It's a great movie.
If you like, what was his Clive? What is it, Clive
Owen? Owen? Yeah.
But see, what gets me about that one, and I really liked about it, was he wasn't a badass in it.
No,
I mean he had a couple of moments where he had his little badass moment, but he gets beaten up. He goes around. He's being hunted. Children of Men. The assumption is that no one's having children anymore, and they find a pregnant woman.
Yeah,
and you know what? I think I might have seen that one.
Speaking of that actor, he did this movie, and I absolutely love it. I've bought multiple copies over the years because I've been broke. Or which one?
Shoot 'em up or whatever it's called.
Oh yeah, Shoot 'em up. That's my favorite fucking.
Yeah, I love that movie.
Real quick, my phone is literally about to die, so I have to get out of here.
Okay.
For real. It was very cool hanging with you guys.
Take care, Derek.
Yeah. You too, man. Don't be a stranger.
I'll be around. As long as I can get off work early enough, I'll definitely be in.
Make sure to subscribe to all these people there, Derek. These are all good people.
Right on.
Yep.
As long as there's a link.
Yep.
Oh, there's no link. Man. Just Shadow and Sun. There's only one Shadow and Sun out there. And, especially, we got the father and son thing going on. At some point, you two will be ready to do some of the activities we do. If you're, wanting to get him into gaming, it'd be 5-6 years down the road, maybe. But, maybe you'll hear something that will, spark something that'll help out. So,
hey, Derek, if you want something that worked really well with my son, just for educational, Simply Circuits.
I think his phone died already, but yeah.
Sorry, he might have frozen. I can't tell anymore, but yeah.
Yeah.
Oh well. Simply Circuits was something I got my son when he was like 4 or 5, and he loved it. until we shorted out a couple of things. But other than that, it's been pretty good. Yep. I kind of figured. Do we count, if we're going to talk about dystopian, what about Outlander?
With
I don't know if I call it
that movie,
dystopian. It's a good movie, but I can't remember enough about it.
It's definitely dystopian with the way the miners are treated. It's basically if you take the alien universe and you take the xenomorphs out and you focus on a different company, but Wayland Yutani, it's just some different company. It's basically the same universe. Like they literally use the same props and everything. So I definitely count it as a dystopia. The way they treat the miners, there's a whole thing where they drug them up so they work harder.
I haven't seen it since it came out.
Yeah.
But I remember enjoying it. My dad and I watched it together, I think, at least once.
Yeah.
What do you guys think about Equilibrium?
I like Equilibrium.
Awesome dystopia, definitely.
Here's one. Okay, this is a little bit of a stretch, but you guys are going to have to deal with me. Most of us grew up watching the Jetsons, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay. Here's the theory I caught. The Jetsons did not go back in time when they met the Flintstones. They went back down to the Earth. And that's where the Flintstones were. Because at no point in time throughout that time period would they know what they had TVs, they celebrate Christmas. There was a lot of things that they did in that cartoon that makes absolutely no fucking sense for a caveman cartoon, right? So Flintstones, using that argument, Flintstones is a utopia cartoon.
I'm not. Well, of course, the Flintstones. Well, both of them are utopian. But Conall, just remember. Did you remember? Because I know I've talked this to other people, but do you remember the Family Guy where they're showing what the Irish were before they found beer?
Yeah.
Anyway, I just couldn't let that go. It's like, man, I wish Conall was around here because I know we were talking about that. I think.
I remember that exact conversation. As a matter of fact,
that was with you, and I was like, man, we need Conall in here. I just feel wrong without him, in there. It's like
we're Irish bastard, you.
Well, we're all going to become pure energy, but first we're going to get what Sean made, this thing called beer. With it, if we're going to talk about dystopian, let's not forget about Logan's Run.
Oh yeah. Absolute classic.
Hey James, why aren't you in here? I know that the stream. I know there's a link.
Yeah, James, you jerk.
So we got. What are some other ones? Of course, Planet of the Apes. Another dystopian.
Escape from New York, Escape from LA. Those two movies, the great dystopias.
The funny with Escape with LA, and it's not exactly funny, but I think it's hilarious. I want to move to LA for the pure fact that every time I leave LA. I'm Snake Plissken.
Yes.
Yeah.
Because
every time they go like, I thought you were dead.
Yeah. I love that one.
That was a classic. I've seen that movie hundreds of times. Loved it. I'm the Duke. It was just another classic. But the second one needed to never have been made. Period. It was absolutely terrible.
I didn't mind the second.
I like the second one. It was fun. It was the third one. It was going to called Escape from Earth.
What if we're going to mention that? Why don't we mention Soldier?
I love Soldier. That's one of my favorite movies. It's pretty much as far as Kurt Russell movies go. That's probably. I would say probably my favorite.
Kurt Russell, I'm going to get some hell for this one. But my favorite Kurt Russell movie is Overboard.
I also love Overboard with
what about Captain Ron?
So I'm with you.
Captain Ron's good too. Don't get me wrong, but I don't know. Overboard was always one of my favorite movies of his.
It's funny too because if you go back and you look up Kurt Russell and you look at his earliest movies and how much time he spent, I guess with Disney, I think it was.
Oh yeah, he was a Disney kid.
That cat made a crap ton of movies.
Yeah.
I mean, just a crap ton of movies. I'm not saying they're all bad or anything like that, but it's weird how he went from that to almost nothing but sci-fi.
Well, he did Eight Angry Men. Was it 8 Angry Men?
Yeah.
And with Samuel Jackson and
yeah.
It's a Western movie, and it's a.
8. Yeah, I know what you mean. 12 Angry Men is the movie about the fucking the dudes that have to do the
jury duty.
Yeah, the jury duty. That's
I'm not talking about that.
Like what?
Yeah.
So that's a little bit before his time, I believe.
Yeah.
I've seen it. Yeah,
same here. It's weird though. Real quick, we never actually talk about non-sci-fi or fantasy stuff, which doesn't bother me at all because I almost never watch that stuff. But it's kind of weird that those kinds of movies like only rarely come up.
I love that stuff. So
I watch a lot of. I mean, the movies I watch and shows I watch vary on what kind of mood I am. Sometimes I don't want a sci-fi fantasy. Sometimes I want.
I can never think of a time that existed for me.
There was a Matthew McConaughey book. Matthew McConaughey movie came out years ago with Samuel L. Jackson. Wow, called "Time to Kill." It's a court movie, and that one is probably it's a rough movie. Do any of you guys know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, I know.
I stay away from everything like that. I have all my life, just like I've stayed away from history. The same thing. I've been able to focus entirely on science fiction and fantasy, and I still miss a crap ton of stuff you guys are telling me about.
Oh, what? If we're going to talk about Dystopian, what about They Live?
Oh yeah,
one of the all-time classics. Yep.
I'm here to
I've seen it time to kill,
and chew bubble gum, and I'm all out of bubble gum.
Is it that Time to Kill? Is it that one where like Samuel Jackson's like, I don't regret murdering them, and I would do it again.
When those guys did what they did, the Time to Kill, that's the movie I'm talking about.
Okay. So that's where he gets him when they're going in the courtroom and he shoots them. I saw
it's
that
like
one.
It's got Kiefer Sutherland and it is like a fucking like KKK like redneck and shit like that.
Yeah. I'll be honest, I don't care for those. That's not the reason I watch movies. I watch movies mostly for escapism. Yeah. And the problem is that I'm a big history buff. So I'd rather watch a documentary than I would watch a movie which is a fictionalized aspect.
I completely get that. If I have a formula on how I read my books. Right now it's kind of breaking my formula because Shadow's adding more books to my list. I'm like, you're fucking up my schedule. Where I'll read like a documentary, then a fiction, then a nonfiction, then a documentary, then so forth and so on. And that's just how I do my books. And my movies, I mean, with the Time to Kill and a handful of other movies, there's only so much fantasy and so much sci-fi. I went out there. I wanted something different. And I saw that movie. I saw that movie as a kid, and I wasn't able to watch all of it because, of the aspect of the movie. So I was curious. It's one of my favorite movies for what it is. Do I recommend it to everybody? No. Absolutely not. But doesn't mean it's a bad movie.
Well, one of my favorite movies is Dazed and Confused, which is about the 1970s like high school kids just going to like parties and stuff like that.
Oh yeah.
See what else do I love? Like
one of my favorite lines comes from that movie. Granted, I changed it because I'm older now. The line goes, "I like high school girls. I get older, but they stay the same age." I'm like, ew, that's gross. Now I like college girls. I get older, but they stay the same age.
I like milfs. I get older, but they stay the same age. Just gonna like upgrade it every like 10 years or so.
Yeah. This is something I have to love, which was there was an old Benny Hill, and there's this beautiful. But it was a beautiful redhead. And she comes in and she's talking to Benny Hill. It's like, and she's like, "Would you like to swing?" And she points over to her to the man she came down with, and they're like, "Oh!" And he looks at his wife. He looks at her, looks at his wife, and of course she's old and everything, and and he's like, "Oh, yeah, I'd like to do that." And so the man goes over, and of course the wife's like all into it because she looks at Benny Hill and she looks at the man, and the man's like in his 50s, and she's like, so she's all excited, and the redhead starts leaving. He's like, "Where are you going?" I think she says, "No, my mom will be down here in a minute." and she comes in, and she's even older and uglier, and he's like, "Oh my God, what have I done?" And she says, "Ooh, look, I brew my own beer, and I brought you food." And he's like, "Oh, this is so wonderful."
Yeah,
that's why I'm starting to become as I get older. I'm like, "Can you cook?" And I look at women nowadays. It sounds so, well, it's not. I said nowadays, but we're talking 20 years ago too. It's like, why am I better cook than these women? These women have no like domestic skills. What am I gaining?
Yeah, I've been doing my own. I've been doing my own cooking and cleaning and all that crap my whole life. So there's only a couple of things that are of any importance at this point. And yeah.
I mean, to be fair, what I thought was hilarious is after I broke up with my ex and a few years into it, she started cooking and doing all this other stuff. I'm like, where were you when we were together? I just
funny. But you know the term. I'm going to use this, and we'll move past it. You know the term love language. Everybody out there has a love language, that things that they do.
Yeah,
I'm a professional chef, more or less, and part of my thing is service, and I love cooking for people I love. You know, if it's a kinship like, you know, that we have here, I'd cook. I would have no bones, you know, us all sitting down at a table eating something I made, because that's my, you know, my way to show that I care for you guys. So that's part of my love language. And my ex-wife's like, you know, I really miss you cooking. Yeah, that's too fucking bad.
Well, here's what's funny. So when my ex had, going after, when she had my son, she was complaining she wasn't losing weight, and she was always pretty skinny, even when she was in there. But I would throw in butter and all this other stuff, and she'd wake up and like, well, here we got eggs and we got this, and like she didn't have to do anything. And then it was just kind of like, then she'd get mad. Well, you didn't do this. You didn't. Wait a minute. I cooked you breakfast and I took care of your animals before you even woke up. Why are you pissed off? Anyway, I just thought it was funny.
Yeah,
like, in retrospect. But that was one thing she complained about too, was you know,
you cook for me anymore. Well, you're also not, you know, giving me fellatio, so it is what it is.
Oh, it's well, I just have to laugh at the whole thing, which is, I don't ask for much, you know. It's like, but you got to put in what you take out, and I think that's the problem. You know, that's one thing with friendships, like you said, is, man, people come down, I'm like, you will be fed. That's why I had friends at some point. I said, hey man, would you like to come over? Like, oh, Ronald always has steaks. Yeah, we're coming over.
I was at the grocery store earlier today, and they had tomahawks for sale. I'm like, I've never made a tomahawk before. I want to try that. And I'm like, not this time. Put it down. Like, fuck.
I'm about 8 inches, so that's all the love language I need. So.
Touche.
I don't need to fucking know what to cook. I've got 8 inches.
Since we're going this direction, not all romantic. You know, there are some fun rom-coms out there. Do you guys have any ones that, you know, come to your mind?
One of my guilty pleasures, and it's a rom-com from like the mid-2000s. It's with the guy that was in the 70s show. What's his face?
Heath Ledger, not Heath Ledger.
Ashton Kutcher.
No, the other guy, the main guy, not Ashton.
Eric, the main guy. The guy who played Eric Foreman. Yeah,
and it's called "Take Me Home Tonight," and it's just like this throwaway, like early 2000 movies. It has the guy from fucking what's it called? The Marvel movies where they're in space.
Chris Pratt or whatever.
Yeah, Chris Pratt. This is him as kind of like the bully and like, you know, the jock and stuff like that. Like, this is like literally like 1 or 2 years before he really became famous, and he's kind of like the bully, and that's like, it's like my guilty pleasure, like, you know, like romantic, like comedy movie. It's just like the guy from the 70s show, like it's set in the 80s. He's like trying to, like, you know, get with like his high school crush and stuff like that. And that's like I've seen that movie like probably like 30 times. Like whenever I'm like really drunk, I like watch it, and I don't know why, but I just love it. It's just a stupid throwaway movie, but yeah.
Let's see. I like 50 First Dates, and the other one I liked was what's the other one that I really enjoyed was Punch Drunk Love.
Oh, that one was weird.
Well, it was weird.
I'm hanging out with a bunch of girls. What the hell? No, I'm kidding. Does Castle count? Because that's the closest I've ever come to anything like that ever. But I do have like the first 4 seasons on DVD, so that's kind of a whole lot more than just one movie.
Well, you know what? If you had put down, which is funny because I could never get into it, just because it was Buffy the Vampire Slayer, and my girlfriends, I had 2, at different times, both were big Buffy the Vampire Slayer. And I said, I just can't get into this because I always think, well, why don't you just build something, kill off these vampires? Why are you doing that? Why? It's just. But Castle, yeah, I understand that. I'm trying to think. I only saw like half a season. I just it just didn't feel like I don't really care for that.
Well,
that back
James
and
L
forth.
just mentioned those John Hughes like Ace movies, and that's basically what that movie I mentioned is like based on. It's called Take Me Home Tonight, and it's basically just like a modern take on like those like John Hughes like Pretty in Pink, like all that stuff. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Does Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon count as a romance?
No,
I mean it's a romantic movie. I wouldn't say it's a comedy though.
That's the whole thing I look at for that. I don't know.
I mean, movies. I mean, like us. I guess I didn't say this. Movies, right or wrong, doesn't matter what movie is out there. If it hits something, hits a chord in you, you're going to like it no matter what. Even if the movie is pure shit, if it hits the right chord, you're going to enjoy it.
Well, I mean, it's not even that I'm against having a romantic element in there, like in City of. I'm sorry. Army
Dark City.
No. I'm talking about with Bruce Campbell.
Army of Darkness.
Army of Darkness. Yeah, I kept trying to see Army of the Dead. I'm like, no, it's Evil Dead, but yeah. Army of Darkness, where he has the one chick in there that's the princess or whatever. I'm like, okay, fine. I don't mind having a little romance in there, and it makes it humorous.
I mean, with like John Carter, one of my favorite movies of all time, that's what it's about. Sure, there's all this other stuff. The Princess Bride. Some of the best and oldest stories are about that. Robin Hood, it's more about the romance or the man and the woman, trying to get together than anything else. All the other stuff is just, in the way, so to speak, and what you choose to put in the way then kind of defines the whether it's sci-fi, fantasy, a romantic comedy or whatever. The best stories have always had that most primal of elements, and without it, what do you end up with? You end up with Peter Jackson's Lord of the Rings. There's none of that.
Well,
there is, but it's minor.
Well, I'll be honest. I felt a lot better than when I read the book. I know everyone talks about, they didn't follow the book. I'll tell you this much: what he did with Arwen made me feel so much better than when I read the books the first time. And it's
I hated her.
And it says he married Arwen. Like if you read the book, and you're just going, where did she come from? She's like not even in the book for the most part. And I said,
she's definitely not in the river scene. That's for certain. But yeah, Peter Jackson had to do that. Otherwise, it would have been an entire sausage fest until the very end when Sam and Rosie got together. It was, even reading the books, I had to wonder,
Did they get together? I thought Samuel got with Frodo. My bad.
Yeah,
very funny. But I was actually going to make that joke when reading the books. Had I not known better, I would have wondered, why Sam and Frodo were so close out in the middle of nowhere. What were they doing to pass the time besides walking? It was a little borderline, seeming, the way he wrote about those two characters. I'm like, you trying to tell us something, bud? It's cool. It's the 90s or whatever. You can you can just come out with it, but obviously that wasn't the case, and it would have been a better story had they put more Arwen in it. I just don't like Liv Tyler or whatever the hell.
Well, the problem I see every time I look at Liv Tyler, I see her father in her, and I'm just like, ugh.
That's
the problem. It's not that
I didn't mind her in the few music videos that she did for her dad back in the day. I thought she was kind of hot, but I'm not saying she's an unattractive woman because she is quite beautiful in her own way.
I didn't say she was unattractive. The problem is I see her father, who is not an attractive man.
Walk this way.
Yes.
Those features are very prominent, and that's whatever. That's the way genetics works. But just something about her. I didn't picture her. That's not how I ever pictured Arwen.
Well, like I said, Eowyn is the one that I got mad when I was reading Lord of the Rings, and when I got to the end, it says, "And he marries Arwen." Well, and I think there's a couple of points in there which kind of felt cheapened, in my opinion. Which is number one, and we've gone way off about this, but number one was the whole thing of he should have married, Eowyn from my perspective, which is human stays with human, as the elves are leaving. That was part of it,
right? But I think he was trying to show. You got to remember, Elrond was half elf, and that made Arwen either quarter elf because he married a human, or 3/4 elf because he married an elf. But either way, she wasn't full elf. And the true love aspect that he was trying to show is that she was willing to give up all of that, to be with Aragorn, which made it, it kind of pumped up the romance of the story a little bit more, because while it was not written about, it was, explained, as it were, as then again in the appendixes as well, that was the romance, and he just wasn't good at writing those things. So he just, okay, well, the book's over and there was no romance. I better add this chunk that, I didn't put in the book, and now put it at the end of the book so everybody goes, oh, okay. So there was some, you just didn't really want to write about it in the story per se, but you don't mind writing about it as if writing a history, a book, in a historical fashion, the way he did with all of the appendixes.
Yeah, well, I mean, I love the appendix or the appendices, but I absolutely, but like I said, I felt cheated reading it. If he had put her more in there, I thought Peter Jackson did a much better job, so I don't feel like I've been denied at the end. And so whether people like that or not, this is why I know people are like, well, I want an absolute. I said, no, sometimes, to be fair, I think that he did a better job by doing that. So when he did marry Arwen at the end, you don't feel, especially if you've never read the books, you don't feel like, oh, I've been cheated.
Yeah, because he and Eowyn were a better match, in a way.
Yeah.
And I don't mean racially, I mean personality-wise. They had the same kind of spirit, whereas Arwen was just this, set up on a pedestal kind of character that just
his first love.
Had barely 2 dimensions.
No, I agree with you, Conall. The problem is that it's not explained in the books.
Oh, I mean, you could write 100-page about. Man, he could write 3 pages about a single fucking blade grass, but he couldn't give her more. Yeah, I get it.
He was British. You got to remember, he was British, and they barely.
Yeah, they're not even. They're barely even human. So yeah.
Yeah, I'm not going to disagree with that.
Okay, Irishman.
I'm not British.
The hands. You should be fine with shitting on the Brits.
I'm trying to think of going back. I guess we did the romance stuff. I'm trying to think. I'll tell you one of the things I like. If we want to go really old, The Big Sleep.
Mm-hmm.
Oh wow, with Jeff Goldblum.
No. Humphrey Bogart and.
I'm thinking The Big Chill. I'm bad.
Yeah.
No. I did grow up watching a few bogey movies back in the day, but I don't think I saw that one. I saw Casablanca and The Maltese Falcon.
Joints in all the world.
Yeah.
I love
Casablanca.
I don't care. I love that movie.
Yeah. I've actually got a sealed copy of it that I got just to make sure I had a copy of it, and I just haven't been in the mood to watch it in 30 years or something.
I'm not saying he was a horrible. I'm not saying he was a horrible actor, but I'm not going to say he was a good actor.
No.
Go ahead, sorry.
No, but Humphrey Bogart had a magnetism that had you keep watching the
Oh
screen.
yeah,
And
no, I don't disagree with that. I remember watching those films like this guy kind of sucks, but you're right. He does.
Yeah, there's a reason why Madman, the actor they chose, was like based on Humphrey Bogart. I mean, you just see it if you ever watch Madman. It's
John
like
Hammond.
Yeah. I mean, that's like if he wasn't channeling him when he was acting, like Nicolas Cage channels Elvis, then I don't know what was going on there. It was just luck then, but I don't think so. You got to also remember when Bogart was doing his things, Hollywood was a really new thing. It was, there weren't a whole lot of people before him, to gauge acting on the big screen, as it were. So he could get away with freaking anything, and it was just like, oh, this is fantastic, because there've only been 18 movies before Casablanca. At the time, it was so new.
My first. So get the whole.
No. Go ahead, Victor. You had go.
The first time I actually, as a kid, became aware of Humphrey Bogart, there was like this impersonator. He was like a Humphrey Bogart impersonator, and he had like one or like two movies, like in the 80s or 90s maybe, where he was like literally playing like Humphrey Bogart, but it was just him as the impersonator, and he's like wearing like the trench coat and like the hat and stuff like that. And like, does anyone else remember that? Like, I don't know what his name was or anything.
I think I know who you're talking about, but yeah, I remember.
He looked exactly like him. He kind of looked like a cartoon version of Humphrey Bogart, basically, and he would just like play him in like the movies.
All I can think is when you say a cartoon version is Sam and Max.
Yeah,
I was thinking Bugs Bunny. Honestly, when I was thinking of Bugs Bunny, the Bugs Bunny cartoon that actually had Humphrey Bogart in it, or I was thinking, Victor, were you talking Peter Falk from Murder by Death?
No. This guy was literally just playing like Humphrey Bogart, but it was obviously like impersonator. Let me see.
Yeah, not ringing a bell.
Man, Bugs Bunny got me in a huge argument as a teenager with my stepdad. Holy shit! Forgot about that. He's like,
they're all banned, but the cartoons that were from World War II. Are hilarious, especially when they make fun of the Japanese and the Germans with the whole Looney Tunes.
Yeah, my favorite Bugs to this day is the one with the superpowered carrots.
God!
I just googled it and I found the actor. He was named Robert Sacchi. Robert Pazzi Sacchi died in 2021. He was an Italian-American character actor who, since the 1970s, was known for his close resemblance to Humphrey Bogart. He appeared in many films and TV shows playing either Bogart or a character who happened to look like or sound like him. He was best known for his role in a 1980 film, The Man with the Bogart's Face. So that's probably what, like...
Yeah, I've never heard of any of what you just said. It's all news to me.
I'm not doubting you. I'm trying to think of, when we're talking about these things, I'm trying to think about, when you talk... Sorry, going back over to the science fiction and dystopian, not that I've ever seen it, but what is it about Metropolis in the 1930s?
Yeah, 20s even. It was like...
Oh, God, I saw that.
Yeah, I saw it recently.
That might have been 1919, like something like that. Like,
it's old. Fuck. I was in a film class while I was in college the second time around because I pissed and drank the first time around. I got a scholarship the first time I went to college playing rugby, and I lived in a rugby house. Guess what rugby players like to do? Screw and drink. And I did a lot of both. A lot of drinking, Jesus. So the second time I went to college, I'm like, well, I kind of want to find something I want to do. And I had to take a humanity course, and film counts as a humanity course. So I took a film class, and we had to watch that movie. Oh, my God, it was good, but it was just like one of the top 10 bizarre things I've ever watched in my life.
I'm going to mention another one. What about Saturn 7?
I know of it. Haven't seen it.
Wasn't it Saturn 5?
Maybe it was Saturn 5. Yeah, I can't remember. It was something like that. Yeah.
Wait. Which one? Is it the O.J. Simpson one or the Farrah Fawcett one?
Farrah Fawcett one is the one I'm thinking of.
That might be a little bit beyond my.
It's basically where the man where they have what is it, Kurt Russell and Farrah Fawcett that are like over by the area of Saturn, and they get visited by
that robot.
By Harvey Keitel and the robot. I can't.
Yeah.
Yeah, I saw that once. The robot was pretty damn creepy without that head thing going on.
Yeah.
Just the camera. And that might have been almost traumatic for me as a child. It was just so creepy. And and I just never had a desire to see it again. But yeah, that one was, I don't know if I'd call it dystopia or more of just like an attempt at a slasher movie, like a Halloween, Freddy Krueger in space with a robot.
Yeah, that doesn't ring any bell. It just makes you think of like the Buck Rogers movie.
Go ahead.
What was that movie? What was it? Did anybody hear the first movie that was technically ever made was called Buster Keaton called The General. Have any of you guys seen it?
No.
No, I'm not that old, sorry.
It is legitimately the first movie that was ever made. I had to watch it, and it was interesting how Buster Keaton did more for Hollywood than he'll ever get credit for.
Oh yeah, he's dead, and it's been such a long time. And the last thing Hollywood wants to do is, give credit where credit is due.
Right, his stunts. He did stunts.
Oh yeah, those are nuts.
Were completely, there's one stunt where he had like a building fall on him, and he had to stand right in the right place for the cutout so it wouldn't kill him. And like half the crew walked away because they wanted absolutely nothing to do with it because they thought it would kill him. This guy did more for a movie, did a lot. And people talk about all the stuntmen we have now, which I give them all kinds of props for because they're doing a job that's absolutely fucking crazy as hell too. But Buster Keaton that guy should get more. That guy deserves, if he doesn't already have one, deserves like a fucking statue or an award or something in his fucking name.
Well, he broke his neck under one of those, and they kept rolling.
Yeah,
because he said, you just keep rolling no matter what is what I think it was. Yeah. And I think, that's what put him under. What was the, if you want to talk about comedian, what's the other one I love with Karl Marx? And I would like to see it, which was called The Dictator or something. I can't remember what it's called. But it's like a 1930s pre-fat.
Charlie Chaplin, The Great Dictator?
No. This was Karl Marx. He was actually coming in there. And
you mean Groucho Marx?
Yeah.
Yeah, Karl Marx was the guy that invented communism. I don't think he did.
Yeah, I'm like, I think I know what you're talking about, but that name's not computing.
Yeah.
I mean, Karl Marx could be considered a dictator, but depends on how you look at it.
I mean,
yeah, you're lucky my son's not here, man. He
did plenty of damage to the world, so yeah.
Movies. I like old movies. I watch a lot. I say this not mean sarcastically, but I do enjoy watching black and white movies, even before sound.
Yeah.
All movies. What?
I said, what are you talking about, Willis?
Actually, speaking of being colorblind, my buddy that I drove down to Nashville with had a pair of sunglasses to let colored people see color. I put them on for maybe about 10 seconds. I saw real color for about 10 seconds before my eyes decided they want to start screaming in pain.
Are you red-green colorblind?
I am color. The only color I see is red.
Okay. I was just curious if it was.
He's just angry constantly. Basically.
Yeah, I'm always angry.
Yeah. I'm
Instead of being big and strong, I just got fat. It was a horrible trick.
I'm still sore because I've been trying to do Turkish get-ups and kettlebell swings, and I can feel. Yesterday, I really felt the Turkish get-ups in my legs. So
Last year I was like fit as fuck. I had like pectorals and like I had like a 6-pack and like everything, and now I'm just like a fat piece of shit again. I need to get back. I need to get back to working out. So
welcome to the club. You can't blame it on gaming either.
Yeah, no.
It doesn't even take that long. The funny thing is that I try going swimming, every day. I say swimming. I really just go to the pool and I wade around and move my arms and limbs. But just well, it's a 5-foot pool, and like I said, I'm 6 foot, so there's a limit. There's only like a small area in there. But you go work out, but it at least gets me outside. It gets me away from the computer. We'll see what. And I also do the sometimes for the for the Dutch there, the Wim Hof and the breathing. I did that, which I'll say this much. I did that for 6 or 7 weeks, and I noticed a huge difference in just attitude and things like that. So the problem being in Texas is the water isn't cold enough until like November to actually try doing that.
Well, I just started weightlifting, and then it helps.
Hey guys, I'm going on 3 hours plus it's late where I'm at. I am, and it's a Wednesday going on a Thursday.
Yeah.
I'm gonna call it quits. Victor, what do you have going on your channel?
I do my streams on Sunday, the Dutch Oven, at 11 p.m. Central European time. Figure it out what that means to you as Americans, because you guys got like 600 time zones.
Not untrue.
Usually on Mondays, I'm on the Basic Export show. I'm his co-host, but I think this Monday he's on a different show instead, so we're doing ours on Tuesday.
Okay.
Which I'm slightly salty about. Okay, I was going to mention this earlier. Okay, let me fucking go on the tangent right now. So, Ryan Howard, you guys might have seen him on Legion of Myth and stuff like that.
Okay.
He invited Legion of Myth and Heathen Dog like as a pair, but he only invited the Basic Expert on the show and not me. I'm like, okay, well, he might be my enemy right now. We'll see. He might be my nemesis, but
it's because you're Dutch.
Yeah. So it's like, okay, so you're gonna like get both of the people from this one podcast, but not both of the people from this other podcast, you fucking asshole. But
but he very well might not have known.
Yeah. No,
I'm just, that's the case, and it falls on your co-host's head. Well, you could have told him.
Yeah, pretty much. I'm just gonna fucking shame John, the Basic Expert, as he's known. But but yeah, just catch me on Sundays, catch me on Mondays, and this week, over next week on Tuesdays, and that's about it, really. Buy my stuff on Big Geek Emporium and 52RPG. But yeah.
So what about you, Shadow? What do you got going on other than hanging out with me?
We're doing a video every day of the week except Monday, and I'm getting ready to change that up as well. Or we're going to take off a different day because the little guy's got school stuff. We'll see one way or another. If you're sub to the channel, you'll see something new every day, whether it's a table breaker or I'm hanging out with Mac on Fridays. I'm out there. I got tons of stuff. Tomorrow we're doing a craft video, making a craft item for your tabletop in case you happen to be playing a superhero role-playing game, or if you're playing one of the new Marvel miniature battle games. We're making a piece of scatter terrain for that. And the whole month we're going to be doing superhero movies, TV shows, crafts, paintings, things like that. It's superhero September for us.
All right. Well, me myself, you'll find me on Table Breakers later on today with Shadow and hopefully Victor, if he's able to make it, Bruce, and Jade. We will be talking about languages and on how to handle them, I think is the topic this week. Shadow?
Hey, real quick before we go, Omen, when are you going to make a channel?
You know what? I'll be honest about this. Is probably never, just because I'd rather just listen to what you guys talk about, and anything dealing with my son, I don't have him often enough. There's a couple things. I mean, there's just part of that is, and I do have a real job, which, to be fair, is honestly, it's fun talking to you guys for all of this, but at the end of the day, I'm just not. I really don't care about YouTube that much. I'd rather just talk to you guys.
No, but you're one of the more enjoyable guys to talk to, and
definitely.
I could definitely see people wanting to listen to things from your point of view and your perspective, and you definitely got a little bit of charisma and things like that, and maybe someday you'll change your mind. I hope so. If not, then just keep hanging out with us, and you'll always have a spot if we got one open. So,
even though Conall is my nemesis when it comes to like theater of the mind versus like figures and like battle maps and stuff like that, but
remember, we grew up in an era where we were too poor to have those things.
Yeah,
and I had to use like marbles and chits. So
I don't know, man. I grew up in the same era, and somehow we at least had our dry erase boards to draw with. I don't know if that counts, but it wasn't long before we had miniatures. But I did run through a big huge chunk in the middle where we didn't use miniatures at all. So I guess I'm like right there in the middle because I can play with it or without it.
I mean, I love miniatures, to be fair. So I'm just doing that. I'd love to paint them up. Until this whole COVID thing hit, now to be fair, I have property now, which means I'm trying to farm it. But but I'm kind of locked into an apartment because I don't have enough money to build a house. But I also don't have, and then because if you build one, you still have to have money to somewhere to live until you get there. So, there's that weird aspect, and I'm not knocking it, but I guess if I wasn't, and I gotta give my ex credit for this. For a woman that doesn't work, she kills herself trying to deal with the farm, and that I've never seen any woman to have a dollar go so far. I mean, it's like, how the hell did you get this? Like I said, here, I'll give you some money so you can get some riding equipment for my son. Apparently, she ended up with a donkey, a miniature horse, and all the riding equipment and the money, and there was some money left over. So,
damn. Sounds like my mom, basically. So yeah.
Like I said, you gotta give credit for where it is in there, but that's those are things that come into it. But I love talking about games and movies and everything else with you guys. But for the most part, I'm an only child. I'd rather deal with human beings, oddly enough. But I want to retreat to myself and say, okay, I'm just gonna zone out. Other than that, as social as I may seem, I still have to retreat to my fortress of solitude.
Fair enough.
That makes sense.
That's fair.
Have you ever changed your mind?
Sure.
We'll do whatever we can to help promote you.
Well, I mean, I'll be honest, Shadow. If you were in this area, because our kids are like within a year of each other, my son would probably enjoy doing some of the things that you guys do, and that'd be very different. Like head over there, and but I'd rather see you guys do.
I will be in Texas one of these days.
I might be passing through Texas one of these days. I don't actually ever see me moving anywhere to east. And when I say east, I mean far, far over the water east.
Okay. I will say as much as, we'll see what's going on. But in, we got the full solar eclipse right where I live coming in 2024.
Oh, yeah.
So that's and then my property has like an extra 30 seconds of time. But the great thing about those things is you can be just about anywhere, just in a Walmart parking lot. And so, but yeah, I need to do. We'll see what happens in a couple years, because a little side note: if I was going to do anything, it'd probably have nothing to do with role playing games. It would be like the trials of a newbie farmer, and talking about
cool.
about how
cool.
about how my fruit trees. I think like half my I bought a bunch of fruit trees, but I knew we were in a drought, so I kind of held back from planting them, and I still had about half die. And
Wow.
so, but pomegranates, all that stuff, and then I like to do some bees. But there's plenty of channels like that also. But yeah, it's I'm learning the hard way, and this is the time that I realize, as much we talk about modern era and the court system and everything else, I understand what but the huge difference is if someone is married and if you guys go all into doing stuff like that.
Yeah, that is incredibly fair. But I'm going to call it quits now. Everybody who's in the chat, thank you for hanging out with us as long as you did. Come check us out on Table Breakers tomorrow. Then head out and check out Max Chill Stream on Friday. Check out whatever these guys put out. It being Victor over at Dutch Oven, Shadow at Shadow & Sons, and you'll see me and Shadow talking about with our friend Mark talking about the island of Dr. Moreau.
Yes. Oh yeah.
I love Dr. Moreau. Yeah.
While we're reading,
I love the idea of it. The movie was terrible, but I love.
The book is being rough to me too. As we're talking about this, I'll be imagining me putting my head in a guillotine as we're talking about the damn book as I paint it.
Hey, Conall. What was I going to say? Damn it, I forgot. Never mind. When are you doing your time travel episode?
Oh God, it won't be this coming Wednesday nor the Wednesday after that. I'm looking at maybe the last. It looks like it might be the last. Let me look at the calendar. Fuck.
Because isn't that supposed to be this week? And
the 28th. The 28th, I'll be able to do it. The problem is every other Wednesday I'm gaming. I'm actually in a game that I'm really enjoying. So either I dump those guys and hang out with the cool people at Table Breaker, or I actually do what we talk about. So that's how my Wednesdays are working out right now. But it looks like the 28th of September, I will be talking with Jade and whoever else I can, bamboozle to get into the gatekeepers about time traveling and how it could be used in your game, it being fantasy, sci-fi, and whatever, without it being, I'm time traveling bullshit, but actual using the mechanic of it correctly.
Okay. Just may not be your thing, but and I know that DM James does not like the writer, and I understand, but Cypher Predation has that concept where they travel back in time right during the dinosaurs.
Yeah,
but they can't travel back, so they're kind of trapped, and then they have like time anomalies. So it's like, what's going on? Anyway, it's a cool idea. I time travel is one of those that can't. Boy, it's almost always done wrong, but it can be really cool if done right.
Yeah, that
sounds like that old show Terra Nova. If anyone ever saw that, like
yeah. All right. Well, like I said, y'all, it's been a long night. It's been a fun night, but go get a life. Talk to y'all later.
Bye.
Bye. Night.